Councilman Beal,
Here.
Councilwoman Bettina,
Here.
Councilman Phillips,
Here.
Councilman Casella, and Supervisor Thurston.
Here. Thank you. Everyone, please rise to your respective flags, I guess, if you have one, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
To the flag
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
and one nation,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
justice for all.
Be seated. Thank you. I have one item that I wanted to add to the agenda, if everyone's okay. As you all know, I didn't realize it till this morning, is that today is International Women's Day. And I have it's a proclamation that I'd like to have as a resolution, that I can read later, when we get to it in the agenda, but it's basically a 4-paragraph one. And then for any of the board members that would like to make comments, we can also make comments. Then we would have Joey, put it out there and, more, distribution. I think Joey's not on right now. He has a legislator meeting, but he'll be on later on. So that one I'd like to add. If there's no objections, then I'd like to have a motion to adopt the agenda with that one item.
Move.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next item is to acknowledge the meeting minutes from the meeting of February 22nd. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. So I'll make a few comments, and I want to welcome everyone to our board meeting this evening. And we want to start off with actually some sad news and our deepest condolences. But first, Robert Valdati, passed away last week, and we lost a very dear member to our planning board, but more important, from 30 years dedication to our community service, including being a board member himself, for all that period of time, and really dedicated so much, to the town. So I, really am saddened. I didn't know him that much, but most of you that are on the board and others have gotten to know him very well over the years. We also learned of the passing of Kathleen Lindstrom. Gary Lindstrom has been a very dedicated supporter of the town, and also sometimes corrects our typos, but it's good. He's very conscientious, and we've all gotten to know him. And his wife Kathy passed away, so very sad by that. And last but by no means least, we also lost a former zone sergeant to Troop K, Jim Sweeney, who had been, I think, back in the early 2000s, I think retired. Bill, you may know more specifically, but back around 2007. But he passed away, today, I believe, or at least just recently. So to all three of them, their families, on behalf of the board, we want to extend our deepest condolences, sympathies, and hope that they really can rest in eternal peace. Any of our board members, if you knew them, if you want to make a comment, please you feel free to do that right now before I go on.
I'll just say regarding my predecessor, Councilman Valdati, faithfully served this town for 18 years prior to me arriving in this position, and certainly we appreciate his service in that role. Then he went on to continue to serve our town on the planning board for another at least a decade. So certainly on behalf of the residents of Ward 1, we greatly appreciate his service, and our thoughts and prayers are with his family. Regarding Gary's wife, in years where she was healthier, she would attend our meetings as well, and we miss her, and our thoughts are with Gary during this difficult time. It really is difficult when you see individuals that are taking an interest in the town and they lose a loved one. So certainly my thoughts and prayers with Gary. And then relative to Sergeant Sweeney faithfully served this town as his own sergeant out of SP Wappinger for many years. And my understanding is, and I just heard about this about an hour ago, I mean, I've known the Sweeney family for many, many years, having attended St. Mary's in Wappingers with the Sweeneys, and had the opportunity to see Sergeant Sweeney last year after the St. Patrick's Parade, actually. And my understanding is he had 9/11 related illness, and that is yet another solemn reminder of those that have made the ultimate sacrifice after that fateful day, September 11th, 2001. So my thoughts and prayers are with all those that we have lost.
Thank you, Bill. Last week we had flown the flag and half staff, in recognition of Robert Baldotti's service. Would it be appropriate for Mr. Sweeney, Bill, and the board to do that for the rest of this week? I was thinking that perhaps we could fly the flag at half-mast.
Certainly no objection.
No, there is one other one, Dick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we also lost Kieran Lawler's father as well. I know Chris and I have talked about that. So that happened last week. And, of course, we all know Kieran Lawler very well. I knew his dad. He lives right around the corner from me. Great people. Sorry we missed the attendance of the week. But again, we want to pass our condolences, thoughts, and prayers to his family as well. And I know Chris has also expressed that as well. Again, from a Robert Baldatti, we knew Robert very well. Not only a member of the planning board, but also, as Bill said, a councilman. And I worked pretty closely with Robert. And again, Gary Lindstrom, we've worked with him before, and we always appreciated his comments on that he sent us. So again, thoughts and prayers out to his family as well.
Yeah, thanks for raising about Kieran Lawler's father's passing, Al. I hadn't gotten that, so that's good. Thank you.
I had the privilege of working with Robert on the planning board. I learned a lot from him. He was always a gentleman. He was always there for the residents, both the residents and the children, as he was a teacher. Also, he's an educator, and he gave a lot to this community. And he's really going to be missed. And I wish his family my deepest sympathies, along with the board. Mr. Lindstrom, always there, always keeps us honest, and so sorry for your loss. And also with Mr. Sweeney, it's a very sad time when anybody loses anybody in their family. It's very, very sad. And Karen, father, there's no replacement for your parents. So God rest in peace, all of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much like Councilwoman Bettina, I worked with Robert on the planning board, and he was the first one that I had interaction with, and he was always extremely eloquent, always spoke his mind, and he spoke for the town. I echo everybody's sentiments. He'll be missed. To Kieran's and his family, the loss of his father, I know it was a great loss, and we extend our condolences. He was a very good man.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. And we'll recognize him some more, out in the future. Just moving on, a couple other comments for everyone that's watching. We have now up online the St. Patty's Day Parade. This is the 26th annual Dutchess County Parade this year virtually. The town, sponsored Mike Miner in putting together a great tape. Councilman Beal was the MC for this program, and so we had a number of comments where people got them in, and also at the end of the tape is the parade from last year. So that will be on channels 22 and 35 on cable channels. And we'll be showing twice a day until the 19th through the 19th at 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. So everybody, please look at that. But I'd also like to add that one of the great things that the Dutchess County Parade campaign parade committee does is sponsors scholarships, and the fund is actually in honor of and this year memory of Bill Beal's mother, but more importantly, they provide scholarships to students going to college. So it's still functioning, and it's one reason why the town, the board wanted to try to keep it alive this year, so that all of you can actually donate toward the foundation, but also see the spirit of Greater Wappinger. So again, I think on behalf of all the board, we wish the parade committee all the best in the weeks ahead. We also are continuing to plan we have flyers out for the Joseph Ennisser Memorial 5K Run Walk. It's in memory of another dear friend of the town who we lost earlier, last year. And this will take place on April 17th, assuming the COVID numbers continue to go in the correct direction. And this is going to be out at the Dutchess County Rail Trail, starting at the in East Fishkill at the trailhead junction there. But more information will be available. I think Jessica is going to be getting it on the website. We have flyers out there, so stay tuned for that. But it's going to be a great event that was postponed from last year, but we're hoping to do it annually. On COVID itself, the county numbers have plateaued at a higher level than I think people are hoping at. So we're looking at on the average weekly of around 1,000 active cases. Of course, that's down from a much higher number, and plateaued in the town of around 100 active cases. It goes from the 90s to 110, 112. Hospitalizations are averaging around 40, and the 7-day rate, 7-day positive rate is actually in a good position compared to where it had been, and that's at 3.88%. More importantly, though, vaccinations are picking up. The county has done a really outstanding job in working with the state in getting more doses here into the county. We've been working very closely in the town with our County Executive Marcus Molinaro and his team, and we are posting vaccination information as it comes online. So look at our website, but also the county websites, and sign-up sheets are there. We are able to get, they're going to be starting what they call pop-up sites that will offer vaccinations outside of the major distribution sites. So the first one is going to be held in East Fishkill, but that's for East Fishkill, and town of Wappinger residents. And that's going to be out at John Jay on Wednesday, as I recall. So there's a lot of information on our website and Dutchess County website. Based on the assumption that the numbers don't get worse than where we are, other than a minor spike, I'm proposing to the board to consider us reopening to the public at Town Hall as of April 1st. I think that will give us, a few more weeks to see where the numbers go. And I talked with Councilman Beal earlier, to compare notes from a county perspective. So that's my current thinking. I think we do need to keep a close monitor of the numbers, but unless something drastically changes for the worse, I'm proposing April 1st as the reopening date for, without appointments. Appointments, of course, can still be made, but we would open the door. Still doing COVID protocol as the governor and county executive and CDC are calling, but we would at least reopen our doors. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I think that's a reasonable assumption. I think once we get past the St. Patrick's Day, see how things go after the next couple of weeks after that. And if numbers are down, Dick, I agree, we should open town hall April 1st.
Okay. So we'll plan on that, and we'll keep everybody advised. We'll have one more board meeting later on the month, so we can look at where it is right at that point in time. But let's keep our fingers crossed, since vaccinations are becoming available. Also, the county has a program that will be started where if any of our seniors have issues getting to vaccination sites, can help or to go there. we continue to have Jessica and Dot and Donna calling up our seniors, making sure they're okay, and making sure they're on lists, and finding out who has gotten the shots. And so that communication chain has been, I think, very important. So I thank Jessica, Dot, Donna, for helping with that. So I'll stop there since we do have a busy agenda and turn the floor over to Frederick, who will provide us with a financial status, financial update, since this is the beginning of the month. Okay, Frederick, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Supervisor Thurston. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'd like to start by saying that per the request of the town board, I've been asked to limit my presentation to 10 minutes because there are so many presenters tonight. So on Friday, I did send to the town board members some documents regarding this presentation. So I would just like to go into the highlights that was one of the documents I sent. So regarding our revenues so far, so this presentation is covers the month of January through end of February. One of our major revenue lines is the real property tax, and I would like to report that we have received 100% of that. So we have been made whole in as far as property tax is concerned, although the total budget for the town as a whole was 12.3 million, including the special districts. We have so far received 8.3 from the receipt of taxes. So there's a balance of 4 million, which we hope to receive before the end of this month, and then we'll distribute it accordingly. We have another line which is called facilities use fees, and I remember last year we did it by about 100,000 because there was the expectation generating revenue from the Canworth farms. As we all know, there's a lot of activity going on at Canworth farms, and there's quite a number of projects that are supposed to be taking place. And in light of that, I am a bit, we need to look at this line again because we might not realize this 100,000 that we put in the budget. Fortunately, the rental of real property, we are on target. We're averaging 22,000 a month, and so far we're at 44,000. And my expectations are that at the end of the year, we would have received at least more than the budget amount of 240,000. Fines and forfeited bail, we received 6,000 in January. This is another line that is concerning. As you know, last year, because of COVID, we were not able to meet our budget, but the numbers for February are promising. I see that we have received so far about 17,000. So it's almost more than double, almost 3 times what we received in January. So my hope is that this trend with the economy opening up, people getting vaccinated, and the town coming to full business, we should be able to pick this up. Mortgage tax receipts, as you know, we did very well last year. And so far, it appears that we are on the right track. According to the spreadsheet that was sent to each of us last week, we have averaged about 91,000 for the first 2 months. So if this trend continues, I think we should be in a good place because for just the January and February, the net revenue for this line is about 168,000, which is 36% of the budget. We decided to budget 2021 based on, we were not sure what was going to happen. So we reduced it by 45,000 to 450 from 495. AIM-related payments, we used to call this AIM, but now it's been changed to AIM-related payments. And there's a spreadsheet online which has been put by the Office of the State Comptroller, which suggests that we will continue to be receiving this AIM money, although now it's going to be called AIM-related payments. So it is my expectation that we will receive the same amount as we received last year, 266,000. And there's no indication that we will not get this amount. I think what is happening is that they are trying to take a portion of the sales tax from the county to make this payment and make the towns whole. Building permits is an area that we did very well last year, but so far it's been disappointing. And we are only averaging 9,000. And I spoke to Barbara earlier on last week, and she told me that this year might not as favorable as last year. The only good thing about building permits is that our B fund is very healthy right now, and we should not be too much concerned. And later on, you will see that we actually did increase our fund balance in the B fund. Sales tax revenue, there's no indication that our agreement with Dutchess County is going to be, the expectation that our sales agreement with Dutchess County is going to continue this year. So we expect the same amount that we received last year, which was 1,094,000. CHIPS revenue, we have in the budget 220,000, and we expect to receive at least 80% of that money by the end of the year. Let me go to the spending. I will only just highlight some of the major spending lines. One of the lines that was a bit that caught my eye was the telephone, in which we have spent 6,211 at 35%, line A1620 for 10. This line comprises cell phone charges from a number of departments, especially departments that do not have a separate telephone line, including fire inspector, rec director, historian, building and grounds, receptionist, highway superintendent, HR, town clerk, comptroller. So it's a line that we need to watch, and I will be coming to you should I find that there's not enough funds in the line. I'll be coming before the town but to request for additional funding. Miscellaneous line is another line that is already at 46%. And this is because we have used about 10,800 for the town hall and senior center deep cleaning due to the COVID exposure. Moving on to another line that is a bit on the higher side is health insurance at 27%, even though the budget increased by 85,000. And we have paid up to 3 months of health premiums. We are at 190,000. And if we extrapolate that, assuming that we will be spending the same amount, we might be off by about 50,000. But again, we'll see what happens. The good news is that we normally receive some premiums for retirees, and we charge back on the expenditure line to reduce it. So we have not done that for the first 3 months. The last expenditure line that caught my attention was the summer director playground, B7310-101. And this is the line that we are using to pay our receptionist. Pari solution number 2018-148. there was supposed to be a line that was supposed to be created under the supervisor's department to pay for this expense. So I brought this to the attention of the rec director, and she told me that she's concerned that a line is being used, and I'm bringing it to the attention of the town board to consider funding this new line for the receptionist, unless the town board has some other ideas about the receptionist line. In summary, we have received most of our revenues. Our spending are still on the lower side because it's just early, 2 months in. I made a list of our cash at bank balances, A fund, B fund, and highway. Our current fund balances as of February 28, and our estimated fund balance as of end of February. My estimate is that the A fund is about 1.1 million, B fund 5.6 million, highway 2.2 million, and the Parkland Trust Fund approximately 455,000. One last thing, earlier today, I received an invoice from NIMA. They made some payments for public officials' liability claims to one of our former employees. They paid, I think, about 375,000. And there's a deductible of 10,000 that is required to be paid by us. So we received that invoice today, and our insurance line, although we have paid for the whole year, there's only about $6,000 left in it. So I will be asking the town board to consider approving additional funds from fund balance to cover this deductible amount of 10,000. But I will send the invoice to the town board after during the meeting to have a look at it. So I don't want to spend so much time. If you have any questions, we can hear those questions at this time. So that concludes my presentation.
Just a couple of quick questions, Frederick. So Parkland Trust, where you said we have $455,000 left in that account.
Yes.
Does that include any money for the Spook Hill Playground at all in there? So in other words, did you take that into account?
Yeah, so there's I did a breakdown of that forecast. So currently, as of end of February, we have 577,000, but I've included the Challenger Field bathroom, which is pending, Mars Memorial, and Veterans Highway, and then the playgrounds equipment at Rockingham Park, which adds to about 122,000. So that's how the 455,000 is coming about. So
another question for you. We just approved, and you probably don't have it in there, but we approved the Carnworth roof. We put the tarp over that, the 31,000. Is that also included in your 455, or is that a subtraction from the 455?
Yeah, so that has not been billed yet, so it's not included. So
okay.
Add that.
What I'm trying to get at is, what is the real balance? Because we have obligations today we need to pay. So 455 doesn't include all the obligations that the board is approved. I'm just trying to figure out what is the correct balance. Is it 455 less the 31 we approved for the roof, or $30,000 for the Spook Hill Playground? So again, I just want to, you don't have to do it tonight, but what I'd like to do is get an all-in kind of thing so we can see what our balance is, because we have a number of other projects we're going to probably go forward with, whether it be playgrounds and other things we're going to be using the Parkland Trust money for. And
I would add, Al, that also, to the extent that any of those numbers are going to be reimbursed, right, from the grants, then we should have a line that shows that as well, Frederick, if we haven't calculated that in, right?
Yeah, like as an example, I agree, the $100,000 grant we got, I mean, we have to pay up front, but you get the money back, so that's a net zero. So I'm good.
Same with the, a Challenger League, issue as well. We got a grant of 90-some thousand for that, so.
Correct. Yeah, so we should kind of make sure we normalize that so we see what the real ending balance is. Sure. It sounds like we're in a pretty good position right now. Real property tax is spot on. Looks like, the rental real property is spot on. Looks like we're in good shape there. Mortgage tax looks really, really good too. We're averaging probably $85,000, $90,000 per month going back into 2020. December was an anomaly where we had 177,000, but looks like we're in really good shape there. AIM looks good. So with the exception of a couple areas, I think the numbers are coming in, at budget or a little bit better than budget, which is a good news story here. So thank you very much for your presentation.
And I'd like to add for the board, at this point in time, last week, we had Barbara and I and our legal counsel a good discussion on some code changes, but it includes, the code changes that are necessary to enable us to continue with the parks and recreation fee, that has gone into Parkland Trust, but Jim's outlined an approach that he's working on finalizing, which I hope, at the next board meeting, he'll be able to present that so we can continue and then give the right advice and counsel, to the planning board on how they're going to continue to collect monies that will be going into our parks and facilities. But since we really have almost as many parks as we want to deal with as actual numbers of parkland, then we're looking at it, as you've heard before, from a capital expenditure point of view, which is basically what we've been talking about in these costs, Al, that you've identified. So Jim will have something, I hope, for the 22nd meeting on that. Okay.
Just a question relative to AIM. So the state fiscal year is different than our fiscal year. So just to clarify, the AIM funding for the fiscal year that ends on March 30th, which we anticipated into our previous budget, we received that for 2020. Is that correct?
Yes, we received the full amount of $266,000 in 2020. And you click on that the link that is in my presentation, it will show that they will be paying the town of Wapinda every December from now on, or from beginning of last year. So we received the full amount of 266. We'll be receiving it in December. They are showing what we received in December 2020, and they will continue making this payment as far as I know.
Okay. Did you say that AIM is changing names for the next fiscal year, or what was happening post April 1st?
So there's what we used to get was called AIM, but now for us, it's going to be called AIM-related payments.
Okay.
The same amount. So AIM-related payments is now a different line, A2705, but the AIM used to be A3001.
And did you say that they were going to be anticipating county sales tax sharing for that purpose?
Yes, they'll be using the county sales tax for sharing this monies to the towns.
Oh, okay. So again, back to the original issue. So sales tax revenue is B fund, AIM is A fund. So we need to figure out how that's going to work.
So they what they are doing is that they are taking money from the counties. The state is taking money from the counties and sending it to the towns and villages and cities, just the way like they used to do in the past. But now the name of the grant is changing from AIM to AIM-related payments. So it has nothing to do with the sales. Okay, it has something to do with the sales tax, but the state and the county know how they're doing it. The state is going to be taking some money of the sales tax from the counties and then send it to us as AIM-related payments.
Okay, so it'll still be A fund revenue. We're not going to have an issue with that?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, and then the last point for the supervisor, we need to make sure that there's no sales tax formula negotiation needed relative to this. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we've been advised, so far that there's not, and it's not going to impact our minimum, sales tax expectations. But I think, as all the board knows, those negotiations for the next round of agreements will be coming up, I think, later this year. So I anticipate there'll be some of that. And as I get more, then I'll be discussing with the board.
Because the towns will be most affected by this. If there is any effort to reduce our sales tax from the county because we will be receiving AIM money through the county, the towns will be more affected than the villages and cities. So because they have a separate statutory process. So as long as that's on our radar, then I'm good.
And as I understand it, Bill, that towns with villages get impacted worse.
Yes.
Right. So it is on our radar.
Okay.
We'll be keeping a close eye on that, going forward.
Thank you.
Board.
you.
Yeah.
So as to that issue, towns in and of themselves don't have the authority to impose a sales tax, whereas cities and the county does. So, towns and villages are, stepchildren who get to sit back and see, the fight between the other municipalities.
Right. And Jim, my understanding is there's no statutory obligation for counties to share sales tax with towns within them. I know that some counties don't do that. So my concern would be, as we move forward in a negotiation, if we're being told by the state that the AIM related payments are going to be a product of the county sales tax, that we make sure that we keep our eye on the ball here, because through the negotiation process for sales tax with the towns, villages, and the towns and villages receive what's left over after the cities get their lion's share. So as long as we're all on the same page and we're being proactive, we'll be okay.
And I think with respect to that bill, the Fishkill, town of Fishkill, East Fishkill, and Wappinger are all aligned with the same goals and objectives. So we have an effective block, at
Thank
this
you.
point in time for negotiations.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Anything else on the finance? Not, Frederick, thank you. And thanks for keeping the board advised. Much appreciated. Thanks for your work and keeping a close eye on it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. But don't leave. We have more to come. So next item is the public hearing item. We have one resolution that's on the agenda for public hearing. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to open a public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Mr. Clerk, did we have any comments, or do we have any comments being received with respect to the public hearing, which is concerning a resolution introducing proposed local law 1 entitled Authorizing Best Value Procurement for the Town of Wappinger? But I'll let Mr. Hand explain it again for the public. But Mr. Clerk, did we receive any comments?
No, there were no comments from the public by the close of business today,
Okay, thank you.
with either the public hearing or the public portion.
Okay, I'll ask you again for the public
Yeah.
portion for the record, but thanks. Mr. Hand, do you want to just explain it one more time?
Sure. So as discussed last time, under General Municipal Law 103, where competitive bidding is required, the typical formula for a municipality is that they have to go with the lowest responsible bidder based on the lowest bid price for an item that's being purchased. Here, there's been an amendment to General Municipal Law 103, which permits purchasing items and services. This does not apply to public works contracts. It only applies to the purchase of goods and services on what's called a best value methodology. So when considering something under a best value scenario, in addition to just the price, you can also take into account things like warranties, the cost of operation of the piece of equipment. So for example, if you were going to buy a truck for the highway department, you could look at the gas mileage of the truck, the anticipated useful life of the truck, how much parts may cost for interoperability purposes, things of that nature. So to the extent that this best value applies, that would be something that the town would list in its bidding documents and say, you know, in addition to price, we will be considering warranty, you know, ease of maintenance, gas mileage, and whatever you would put in there. And then whoever was bidding the bidding for the job, for the item, would have to supply that information. And then based on that information, you could compare, you know, the various bids that you to see in the long term, what would be most beneficial, what would be the quote best value for the town.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, seeing no comments from the public, then I'd like to have a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed, and we'll come back to the resolution for the board shortly. The next item is to have the public portion of the meeting. That would be the comments on the rest of the agenda items. Do I have a motion to open the public portion?
So moved.
Second, please. Okay. Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Again, I'll just, in the short interim, Joe, any other comments that have come in since we last discussed this a few minutes ago?
No comments from the public.
Okay, then seeing no comments, do I have a motion to close the public portion?
Make a motion to close the public portion.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Now we'll move into the discussion section. And I have the first item. I've invited Rob Stuck to come and talk to us about MSTAR ambulance services during the past year. I would like to say that I believe that our town has been in a very special position in which we've been able to provide 24/11 ambulance service to our community throughout COVID, which has been very important to our residents, whereas many communities, as I think Councilman Beal can also explain from his vantage point, have had a lot of challenges for that. So I would like to invite Rob to present to us, and then any questions that we may have, we can ask at the end of his presentation. Rob, you there?
Yes, thank you, Dick.
Okay.
And I sent over a presentation. I don't know if the whole board got to see it, but I'm just going to skim through it real quickly, give you a quick overview of how 2020 performed and the volume that we were looking at in 2020. The challenges that not only MSTAR was faced with, but the EMS and emergency services community in general. Some of the steps we've taken to mitigate some of those concerns and some of the stuff that's still taking place in the county as a result of COVID and staffing issues. So I'll first start off with 2020 was the second busiest year, just shy of 13 calls in the past 4 years in terms of service to the town of Wappingers. So there was 2,006 requests for ambulance service in 2020. That's you know, about a 200 call increase over last year, I believe it was. But the challenges that we're facing is the amount of patients transported in 2020 was the lowest in the past 4 years. So we had more requests for service, but a lot of patients due to COVID and not wanting to go to the hospital were seeking to be treated at home or just checked on, made sure that they could stay at home. Rather than risk going, especially in the height of the pandemic, going to a hospital where they feared if they didn't have it, that you know, the possibility they could get it there. That was not only the town of Wappingers, that was one of the things that went across our industry, which made emergency services very challenging because our requests for service were up, but the transports were down, and that's where the revenue was generated. When I get into some of the stuff we've done to mitigate it a couple of slides from now, I'll explain some of the things that we see helping us now recover from those circumstances. And then the average response time for the town's services remained at under 8 minutes, at 7 minutes and 53 seconds. So those numbers, those responses by the 2 dedicated units there, which covered 1,403 of the 1,448 transports, is a amazing number. It's a phenomenal number. And I say this every year when we go through this, these are numbers that I would put up against any system in Dutchess County. The next 2 slides I'll go through quickly because I don't know if everyone has them or can see them. It just outlines the average of the busiest day, which is for the town of Wappingers on Saturday, and the time of day that the town is most busiest is between 1 and 2 o'clock. So on Saturday between 1 and 2 o'clock, that's when the town really seems to be hopping as far as ambulance service needs. The slide after that, we kind of went through and just looked at the nature of calls. What are we getting calls for? The top call was for just people not feeling well. You know, I highlighted the top 3, so if you get a chance to look at the presentation. Difficulty breathing came in second. These are important numbers for us on the ambulance operation side. Helps us know where the volume is, where we may need to have a little bit more backup for the system. We can trend the nature of calls to make sure that we're stocking the right equipment if we're seeing a particular call. I know, Dick, we've spoken a couple times throughout the years about the opioid crisis, and are we seeing any increases there? Tracking this data is important, again, for us operationally to make sure that if we're seeing a trend in a certain direction, that we're adequately equipped to handle those type of calls. The next slide just goes over a comparison to show you the last 4 years in comparison to 2020. And it kind of just shows you some of the data I just went through where in 2018 was the only other year that reached over 2,000 requests for service in town. But in 2019, we transported, in 2018, we transported 81% of the patients that called for service. In 2020, we transported 79%. So you see the number going up in requests, the number coming down in actual transports, which is what helps fund the system. So again, challenging. The average response time is staying right in line with where it's been the last 4 years, which is great. Staying under, our goal is to keep it under 9 minutes, and we're actually staying under 8 minutes. So when someone calls for ambulance in the town of Wappingers, they're getting it, and they're getting it quickly. And, I just want to mention while I'm on response time, a call that just took place on Friday in the town of Wappingers. Councilman Beal is very, very familiar with it. He was there, as well as the Houstonville Fire Department in our service, where a resident went into cardiac arrest. Councilman Beal delivered the first shock through AED. We did everything we could do on the ambulance, got her to the hospital. She was treated in the cath lab that night and discharged home the next day on Saturday. So these response times, having those dedicated resources, the collaboration with the fire department and other emergency services in the town, these outcomes, this is one that just happened this past weekend, so I bring it up. But this is a common theme that takes place in the town that happens behind the scenes. A lot of people don't see it. But lives are being saved because those units are there and ready to respond immediately. The next slide, I just gave some bullet points of the challenges that I kind of glossed over briefly that not only MSTAR is facing, but our industry is facing. MSTAR alone saw over 5 regular long-term employees say that due to COVID and their family situations and their health situations, that they finally retired and got out of the business. So that was just MSTAR alone. For a small company, losing your senior people at that number is hard on us. That coupled with, we had over 16 positive employees at one point. So staffing really became an issue. One of the things that made it really hard for the industry was we weren't alone. So there's two other providers in the Hudson Valley that kind of work alongside MSTAR. They had the same thing. So if we're all drawing from the same pool of employees, if I have 16 out and the other two agencies have 16 out in a service that's already hurting for employees, that was devastating to our industry. And you're seeing a lot of that still play out today in the county, where there's just some points of the day where there's no ambulances available. And on the MSTAR side, on the town of Wappingers and the areas that have dedicated resources, you don't have that problem. The town of Wappingers has always had 2 ambulances. All throughout the pandemic has had 2 ambulances. And today, even with the issues and challenges we're facing, has had 2 ambulances. There's other parts of the county that we're relying on system status ambulances that were doing other transports and would be in the area for 911 calls. With a lack of those units out there, those areas are seeing delayed responses and sometimes 4 or 5 departments deep before an ambulance is responding to them. You know, we'll go into that into the next slide, but one of the other challenges we're facing, our biggest challenge right now is people. Due to COVID, them not being there, them retiring. One of the other issues that's taking place now is the state and certain areas throughout the country are offering large paydays for people to come out and administer the vaccine. So we're having people say, well, wait a minute, I can go sit in a CVS parking lot and make double what I'm making given the vaccine, or I could be in an ambulance exposing myself and my family to it. So they're going and they're volunteering to administer these vaccines, therefore adding to the employee shortage that's already in place. Some of our folks have been deployed through the military and the National Guard for 2 reasons. One, the National Guard is deployed and still active down in Washington, so we have some people down there. And 2, the National Guard is also delivering these vaccines at certain pods. Our biggest challenge as employees, we're constantly working to see what we can do to entice and keep them and bring more on. And we will get through it. Every challenge we've been faced with over the years, we've managed to overcome, but this has been one that just keeps giving all year. When you think you clear one hurdle, another one kind of comes up the back. So what we have been able to accomplish, and the reason we've been able to maintain our service through 2020 is, and we have not one of our dedicated systems, which is, you know, just for the rest of the town that doesn't know our service area, is basically the Eastern Corridor. It's town of Wappingers, East Fishkill, Beekman, Pauling, Unionville, all of Putnam down that line. So kind of that whole end of the county has dedicated resources through MSTAR. Not one of those went an hour or a minute without staffing, which I think was a huge help for the county because they were needed to assist other areas that were not getting the service that they needed or the response times that they needed. With that, we continue to have, you know, I mentioned the call on Friday. That turned out to be a phenomenal save with the patient being discharged the very next day. But we've had numerous calls throughout the year, serious MVAs and CPR calls and save calls that with exceptional response times, because those units are dedicated, have had really good outcomes. You know, we were able to assist the neighbor over in the village there last weekend for a very horrific auto accident where we were able to get 2 units over there. The response time was very crucial. Unfortunately, the outcome was sometimes not what you want it to be, but it wasn't for a lack of not having resources that were needed immediately and were there immediately. So those are just some of the things we've done for some of the surrounding communities because those units are dedicated to the town of Wappingers. We continued our operation to the best of our ability at full staff. Again, the dedicated units were never touched. Our transport side is down units currently, as is all the other vendors, not only in Dutchess County, but across the state and the country. We did accept PPP funding as well as the first tranche and third tranche of the CARES Act funding. That allowed us to stay at full staffing if we had the staffing available, and maintain our core side as best we could. It also allowed us to continue operations when our revenues were declining and make capital investments, which we did across the board, but just in the town of Wappingers. We refreshed one of the vehicles, was replaced this year, and both LifePak cardiac monitors were replaced. And just so you know, those things are going for 37 grand a piece these days. So that was something we did across all our 911 systems in 2020. Wappingers received their 2 plus a new vehicle. Being on top of what was available to us was crucial to staying viable, which we did, and also continue to invest back into the company to make sure that we had the equipment and the service people needed to provide these services. The PPE, at no point did our operation, even through the height of the pandemic, not have the necessary PPE. It got close at times. It got scary, downright scary at times. And I send my sincerest thanks to Councilman Beal again. Sometimes he has different hats on, but he was a very big advocate, not only for us, the town of Wappingers, but emergency services across the county, to ensure that as the state provided those resources, they got into the hands of the people that needed them. And that was a big help to make sure that, when you heard agencies saying, I just don't have PPE for my equipment, we never hit that level. So again, thank you, Councilman Beal, for having our back at that level there for us. Well, that's basically the presentation. The only other kudos I'd like to throw out there is to the supervisor of building and grounds, Steve Frazier. We're over in the emergency services building. It's a very pretty building now. We've seen all the changes over the past year and a half, 2 years. Whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning or a Saturday or a Sunday, if we had an issue, Steve was there and making sure we were operational and our space was comfortable for the crews. So Steve, thank you for all you do. We really appreciate it. We're happy there, we're home, and Bill, thank you for everything you do. Dick, it's been a pleasure working with you. It's been a very responsive administration and board for any needs that we've had from an agency level and from a town provider level. So thank you to all.
Well, thank you. Anybody like to make some comments or questions, to Rob at this time?
Well, Rob, I just want to thank you and please extend to all the employees that work their tail off, obviously, to help the residents. Extend our thanks. You guys are always there and always on time. And, Councilman Beal is always championing you guys because you do a wonderful job for the town. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Rob, I'd also like to say thank you very much for everything you do. I was looking at some of your times going back from 2017 through 2020 and number of transported, number of town of Wappingers unit versus MSTAR. Boy, you are consistent. You guys are good. You're on time. You couldn't ask for better service. Response time has been below 8 minutes, as you said, and you've saved a lot of lives. So thank you very much for everything you did. And Bill, thank you for allowing Rob here to be able to get the PPE equipment he needed to make sure that things kept on running smoothly. So there was no breakage there. So again, thank you very much for everything, Rob, you and your team did. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say, Rob, this is a service that the residents of the town of Wappingers pay for. I think I've had a situation in my own personal family, and EMS came out and was very helpful. But again, this is something that we pay for, and your team has been very, very good, and you have saved lives. And Bill, thank you for giving and helping in this awful time that we're all going through. I did request if you could please give me a call because I have something that I'd like to discuss with you offline. Okay, thank you.
For me?
Yes, I sent you a chat.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Rob, I mean, I'm a little biased here since I'm in EMS. I've been an EMT for 25 years, and that's why I champion this service, because I see what happens in other parts of the county where municipalities, frankly, do not have their eye on the ball when it comes to response times. And there are a number of different reasons why that happens, whether it be because another agency is handling the EMS, whether it be a volunteer fire department or whether it be a rescue squad or a volunteer ambulance corps. Here in the town of Wappingshire, this town has taken a proactive stance on EMS. We understand that New York state law does not definitively require towns to take upon this responsibility, but we have done this consistently for many, many years. In the period of 7 days in this town, we have had several critical situations occur. Rob, I appreciate you mentioning that cardiac save that we had the other night. That was teamwork with a paramedic, a BLS, EMT, and a fire department working hand in hand and being there at the exact moment where it counted most. In my 25 years, I've never seen anything like that or witnessed a situation occur like that. And I thank your staff for the professionals being there and effectively transporting that patient, getting her to the cath lab as quickly as possible. So that right there is just one example to my colleagues, one example of thousands of examples that have occurred in this town that many times don't get mentioned, or many times there's no reason to even discuss. Each year we have a tradition of recognizing our first responders. Obviously, we couldn't do it in September due to COVID, but we hope to be able to do it in September of this year, where we're going to recognize the fire, police, and EMS personnel and the civilians that go above and beyond and make a difference for our residents in this town. But again, the EMS system that this town has in place, that this town board oversees, is, I'll be honest with you, I would put it up against any EMS program in this county for response times and for the level of care that is provided. I believe firmly that we provide the highest level of service to our residents, and MSTAR is the contracted provider that is helping us meet that mission. So thank you, Rob, for being here. And again, thank you to your personnel for being on the front lines during an unprecedented pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. And Rob, you know, I said at the outset and join in, but what's more important in the overall picture is it truly is a partnership. And thanks to the board, I think thanks to past boards and the vision that they had, but particularly thanks to you in working with us closely and coming out also tonight. But I'd also add, you know, the teamwork point that Bill has made, just as you mentioned, Steve Frazier, but also our highway department and keeping the roads plowed and keeping the trees off of them so that you can get through. And it's been a remarkable, you know, just during the last 3 years observing this. I joined with Bill, and I think, you know, it's second to none, you know, from all those that I've seen around the country and around the world. So I encourage you to keep it up, but also, you know, keep in dialogue with us, anything that you need, and we're here to try to help you whatever way we can. We all have a lot of different opportunities to be of assistance. So we look forward to actually, as COVID dissipates, we hope, you know, to visiting some more and talking with you, maybe having some training programs as well. So thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Rob. We'll see you around.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye. Okay, next discussion will be for Kevin to join us to give us some updates, you know, with respect to the veterans initiatives that he has. If we can get ahead and get on.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
I wanted to mention first and foremost the 5K race. As we speak, Jessica has been talking with Philip Dew, who is our finance person, and he's been working with Gail Sherry, who is the super race coordinator. We're going to have everything online. I'm expecting it to be tomorrow. I've spoken to a lot of people about the 5K race, and many of them are interested in entering. And a lot of people don't know that it's going to be virtual as well as live. March 15th really doesn't have an effect on us because we're offering the participation either virtually or live. There are a lot of hurdles that we have yet to cross, but we're anticipating that everything is going to work out really well. I've got a very, very good team working with me, and I wouldn't be able to do it without them. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, the Veteran Cemetery. Now, late last month, we got a notice from the state saying that they are interested in building a veteran cemetery and put it out to all of the municipalities, including us. And I've looked at it, and there are 11 pages of information, 3 pages of questions, which total 27 questions. The basic ones, such as my name and my municipality, they're about the easiest ones there. I have to supply information as to the acreage of our proposed cemetery, and it gets worse from there. So I will be talking with a number of people. Angela, you and I need to talk about it. Dick, you and I.
Yeah.
So I will be tackling it within the next week. So I'm going to be making phone calls and.
Is the I think you maybe Angela and I, we can meet or do a Zoom, and so you can update us on what your thinking is on that.
And maybe you can also send us who is on this committee. The
Sure.
names of the
Oh, of
people,
course.
please, and if you could please send us any documentation
Right.
as so far so we can review it prior to our meeting. That would
Yes,
be really
I will.
helpful. Thank
Right.
you.
I will invite you to our next committee meeting. We're having them weekly because of the 5K and the crush to get it done on time. But we're Zooming our meetings. And I would like to think that you would be able to, quote unquote, attend. So we will include you in the next upcoming meetings on Zoom.
I think you should include the entire board because I think they
Exactly.
would all, if they have a chance.
Yep.
Any meetings that take place, I mean, we can bring more information and be
Very good.
helpful all the way around if it's to the whole board. So thank
Good.
you very, very much.
Oh,
Really.
sure.
Thanks,
It's-
Dick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Evan, I asked you earlier, and you probably forgot it. With respect to the 5K run walk, did you confirm that the unveiling of the 2 signs, Memorial Highway signs, would occur on the 18th, or were you able to determine that?
I just sent out that note this evening.
Okay.
And I'll follow up with a phone call, although Sue's staff is right on the money. I expect to get a reply tomorrow morning.
Okay.
But I'll make the call, and I'll probably speak with one of the young ladies there. So we will know in advance, well in advance. And if we have to drop back 10 and punt, we'll find out well in advance of that too.
Okay.
The software for registration, it should be online tomorrow because we had to get some financial information ready for people to forward us money for registration. So I think Jessica might talk a little bit more about that because she's been in communication with Philip in the last 20 minutes.
You want me to jump in?
Pardon me?
Do you want me
Yes.
to jump in with it? Okay.
Might as well.
So the race information, if you go to wappingerrecreation.com, right on the main page, there's a icon for the race. You can click on it. The timekeepers that we're using for the race have their own online registration system. Right now, you can't actually register until that financial information is finalized with the treasurer of the committee, but you can go right on there and see all of the race information just from that main page on wappingerrecreation.com.
Maybe we could do a little blurb on the actual website when it comes up with little stars or something to focus on people going to the recreation website. So because a lot of people are not going to know to go to the recreation website.
Yeah.
to see this.
I will,
That's
Yeah,
forthcoming,
the
yes.
flyers, the flyers that we're putting out, that I plan on blanketing the entire area with, indicate going to the Wappinger registration, Wappinger
Which is good.
Recreation website.
Which is good, but right now, if somebody brings up the website, they'll see a little blurb that says, oh, 5K run for the veterans, see recreation.
Oh, indeed, yes.
Exactly. I
Right.
mean, instead of, this free information, it'll be exciting for them. They'll just go right to the recreation page.
And
Right.
earlier today, Kevin's talked with Tom Barr, who
Yeah.
is also working with Jessica to do
Good
just that, I
job.
think, Angela.
That's important.
It's all uncoordinated. Yep.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah, we definitely
you.
want people to know what they have available and how to access it. That's first and foremost in everything that I'm doing. I'm going to speak for less than 10 minutes so I can make up for Frederick's time, but we have the commemorative bricks, and we also have the banners. The forms are being stacked or stocked outside the recreation office as well as on the table. And everybody I speak with about the 5K, I'm also sharing information about the commemorative bricks and the banners. And there's my 8 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin. Talk with you, tomorrow.
Okay.
But
Sure
appreciate
thing.
it. Really, it's been an outstanding effort. I think you and the committee and, there's a number of other things, board members that they've been doing, such as cleaning up some of the cemeteries which have veterans. Tommy Mosh has been also a big help with doing that. And, we'll hear some more, reports, I think, going out in the future. But they've been very active, very proactive, and I really appreciate it, as do, I think, all of our residents, certainly our veterans do. So thanks again, Kevin.
Sure.
Next, we'll get a update from Tim Moot, basically on Woodhill Green, and I'll ask him to do the same thing while he's speaking about Robinson Lane. We had a meeting this afternoon concerning Wildwood and Woodhill with the EFC officials. So, Tim, why don't I turn it over to you right now?
Sure. Thanks. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to try to just share my screen real quick, and we'll try to keep this under 10 minutes here. Let's see. So just to recap, we did have a call with EFC today. It was mainly about the funding for the project and, looking ahead on timelines. It looks like EFC wants to close on financing, more likely toward the end of June, but it possibly could trickle into a July, August, September timeframe. With that being said, this project mainly serves Wildwood Sewer District, which is this area here, if everybody can see on the screen. And then there's the little community of Woodhill Green here. And the intent was to, connect them to this system as an out-of-district user, I believe. And so one of the things we wanted in Frederick, there were some emails later this afternoon, but we'd really like to see the updated 2021 water and sewer rates. And I think the board just needs to be in agreement that, I think in our consultants meeting, we discussed that it'd be appropriate to charge them the same rates. And Jim Moran's a better opinion on these matters than I am, but on how they work. But basically, the project relative to EFC is relative to sewer. And then there's also a water half of this too on a separate grant. So we wanted permission and agreement with the board to move forward on the rates. I don't think we're prepared to have those numbers tonight, but in very short order, we would like to, supervisor myself, make a presentation to the Woodhill Green community. They keep inquiring what's the status of the project, and we're sure they're going to want to know how much is it going to cost for them to join. So that's another key puzzle piece to completing the project. Moving forward on the agenda, if anybody has any questions on that.
Tim, why don't we just stop? I want to just mention to the board a couple things, not directly related to this, but I think it's good because you're here and also related to something else that's come up positively today, I believe. We've had also other talks and discussions where we're exploring our options with respect to sewer and water, as you know, elsewhere in the town, but particularly we've had a very promising discussion with East Fishkill concerning the Royal Ridge facilities, which, as you know, are under notices of violation warnings, and we expect the DEC to continue with us on that, hopefully working with us. But what's positive is that we're looking at a joint approach where that sewer could, in fact, go down into East Fishkill. They have a lot of capacity that they could use, and in fact, take it along Route 376, which would further help develop Route 376. And what's positive is that East Fishkill had a preliminary discussion with Chuck Schumer, Senator Schumer's staff, and they think that this project may in fact be one that could qualify under some of the new federal monies that are going to be coming out, particularly since it will be creating new jobs, both as to the installation and also as to the jobs that it could create, such as within our town, the castle, the old building there, that's in state of disrepair, something else could come in. So that is, I think, going to get more positive discussions. The second one is that we're talking with also the town of Fishkill with respect to the water, taking water down Route 9 into Splashdown, and also a little bit further down where there's some properties that are scheduled for development by Fishkill. And again, that's a project that could in fact benefit from federal monies. And so this is going to move along quickly. And one of the thoughts, and Bill Beal and I had discussed it, and I've discussed it with others previously, is that as soon as we open up, I think on April 1st, and have our live meetings in town, is that we should do a workshop that includes this, probably some other topics. And one of the things that I just found out today, which is really good news, is that in the federal COVID relief funds, the town is earmarked for about $3 million, $2.93 million that Chuck Schumer has announced. And those right now we're waiting to hear, are those going to be unrestricted funds? Looks like they're tied into jobs, but that will be something that comes to actually each of the towns. I think the Fishkill is earmarked at around 2.63, and East Fishkill is maybe earmarked around 3.2. The county is earmarked for $57 million. So I think there's some good things that are coming that will help us, and we're going to need to decide where and how and when to use those monies once we learn more about it. So, but positive development in that it's going to, I think, help us build out more of the sewer and water or other things as well. Some money certainly, can go into parks, recreation, like Spook Hill or, other areas. So I think an early April workshop on a Saturday would be an appropriate thing, but we can talk some more later. But I just wanted to give some good news updates to the board and to the town.
Thank you.
Hey, Tim, just real quick, I remember last year you had shown us a quick drawing to run a pipe down into East Fishkill. Is there not a closer connection point, or would that, in the long run, if we went that way, hypothetically?
Hypothetically, that it lends itself to be I was looking for that map while Dick was talking.
Mm-hmm.
I got too many maps now, and none of them are popping up. But when we looked at routing, right? If we go from, and this relative to Royal Ridge, the distance to get to Tri-Muni is about equal distance going to East Fishkill.
Right.
However, we know that Tri-Muni has to have upgrades. You know, I mean, there's even more extensive upgrades. So it's not only the cost to pipe Royal Ridge to Tri-Muni, it's the cost to upgrade on top of that. So,
Right.
you know, that's where the benefit of possibly looking at East Fishkill, where, you know, they have capacity at face value.
So I guess, is there a closer tie-in point into their system? Or would it, in the long run, be more beneficial to run a direct pipe down there because let's face it, we are lacking in foresight. I'll be kind. So would that something that would benefit the town in the long run? Do you see what I'm asking?
Yeah, well, I think if I could just find the map here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what's hopeful is that there'd be a cost savings by this is it here, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's the map.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so here's midpoint, right? And to get over to Tri-Muni, which probably doesn't show on this map, but
No.
you know, the distance is really to tie into the closest like sewer that's going to tie in to Tri-Muni.
Correct.
But the hope here is, you know, if there's some cost sharing available on the East Fishkill side,
Mm-hmm.
There's a hard cost to go, you know, from midpoint to the town line. It
Right.
would probably need some buy-in on the extension here because we're benefiting from that. But so is the town of East Fishkill. So there's a potential cost share
Right.
on this run here. So
And
that's
further to that, you know, Chris, what we were looking at too is that largely that pipeline, that sewer line would follow, you know, roughly 376
Right.
and open up, you know, some of that property, including some that's been sitting there and not best use, you know, that it would, you know, actually fit the federal funding, requirements, because it would create more in the way of jobs, both, you know, for installing the line, but also new businesses that go up in that area. Same with Fishkill, if you see where the line is going. So that was one of the things we're looking at as compared to the other direction that may not have as much economic benefit either.
Mm-hmm.
But
and you also have to consider gravity versus force main, and if it's force main, that makes it more difficult for other users to tie in along the way, which would help offset the cost. So, I mean, it's very preliminary right now. We haven't really rolled up our sleeves and got into it, but in light of this new funding and some of our recent discussions with Fishkill, you know, we certainly want to, you know, we're supposed to evaluate options. And, you know, we've applied for an engineering planning grant, you know, and that's generally the first step in which we would look at these different routes and the costs associated with them and try to find the best logical route. So.
Are we also, well, it's more for, obviously it's midpoint, but how are we on, like, actual, the life of the Wildwood sewer plant? Are we close to, like, critical, or are we still in good shape?
Well, we're critical in terms of the DEC because they've already issued a notice of violation.
Right.
Basically, you know, they've raised the limits that this plant can't meet, and so, you know, and that's into play here. That came up today with our discussion with DEC. Yep. Originally, I guess they mentioned we have requested and received 2 time extensions on the closing for this funding for Wildwood. The last one was really because of COVID. But, you know, the last extension approved gave us to May 1st. And, you know, we were on the phone, you know, pretty enthused about all this. And, you know, all of our reports and plans have been submitted. And EFC is going to follow up with DEC. But, you know, we also, like, referring to the game clock here, DEC is getting ready to issue their new speedies permit, and you know, there's sort of a timeline built into that. So, you know, it takes all parties to come together, and hopefully, you know, for this Wildwood project, it'll see it.
Didn't we already approve though the bonding for this to go through phase
Yeah.
one? Then we're looking for a couple of grants. We got one grant already. We're looking for a second grant. Wow, with sewage treatment.
That's what we discussed today, Al. We were hopeful for that second grant, but with COVID, there was no grant pool last year.
Right.
We're hopeful maybe something would be announced, or, you know, maybe what the town gets from another pool could apply here.
Yeah, so we mentioned that and tried to put a little bit of influence on them, Al, you know, to get that moving, but you're absolutely correct. So the bonding, they have all the documents basically, just, you know, a little bit more that need to have provided, but the board is going to have to decide, you know, with also Jim Horan's help and so forth, how we're going to handle this from a district, from a cost, you know, from a, you know, payment by, you know, residents' point of view, you know, those tough questions that we need to discuss quickly.
Yep. Thank you.
But you know, the good news is I think EFC is certainly very much working with us, and I think their projections, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, but you know, they were, you know, our extension went through, I think May of this year was what we were able to get them to do, but realistically they were telling us that they didn't see that actually closing, you know, to complete that before we start putting shovels into the ground. That would be probably sometime in the fall, October. So we still have a little bit of flexibility just based on bureaucracy and approvals and dealing with their lawyers, et cetera.
Right. And this plays in again with Unistat's goals. Like, we have our whole project spreadsheet with all the capital projects, and, you know, they discussed like a year one project or a year two or a year three. And, you know, this is clearly a year one project in that, you know, we're going to need to secure funding within the next year for this. So it's rank high on the priority.
And midpoint, is there a date where we have to, kind of like with the Wildwood sewage, is there a date that we have to start, you know, making some decisions on what we need to do? And I guess hopefully by then, Dick, we'll find out, are we going to get some of that federal funding to see if we can use some of that money to tie into the official. So is there a timeline?
There is. I don't have it off the top of my head, but, you know, we had to submit what's called a flow management study, and that, you know, we need to put forth some effort to basically study the sewer lines, clean and camera TV them.
Right.
I'd have to pull it out to see what our milestones were, but we also, you know, in working on concessions with DEC, have approved for this EPG grant, and that money would really help offset the cost of this sort of flow management study. So while you have DEC on one side, we have the funding agencies on the other, and we're trying to get them to coincide and recognize each other, that we're all pulling in the same direction.
The good news is at least we are communicating well with DEC, EFC, all this alphabet soup, Department of Health, you know, on even a couple of other matters I won't mention here, but can in an executive session. But yeah, so, you know, it's at least there's good communication going on. That's positive, so that we don't get hit unexpectedly with a $55,000 a day fine. So that's what we're trying to avoid.
With respect to the fine issue, we had a conversation regarding the ability to obtain grant funding, and one of the issues that EFC and the other agencies look at is whether or not you're under a consent order from DEC. So strangely enough, there's some benefit in getting a notice or getting a not curing the violation, getting a consent order, because that will then entitle you to potentially getting a grant, where if you don't have the consent order, you don't get the grant, and you'd have to you know, pay for it. So it's a very strange world that we're dealing with.
Well, in fact, though, on today's call, they had their, you know, we didn't know who was going to be on there. They had the legal counsel, and I think they're starting to change that thought. Jim.
Yeah.
You know, because too many people used it as an out, and so they'd rather do what they're doing with us, working with it and trying to avoid that sort of problem. So
yeah, it really doesn't make sense. And, you know, I mean, one of the things I got a notice about 6 o'clock from New York Conference of Mayors regarding the funding. out of the federal program. It's going to be split in two tranches, one this year and one next year. So, that's one thing to consider, that it's, whatever the funding is, it's going to be not one lump sum, but spread out over 2 years. And then also for us, it's going to go through the county through a process that's similar to the Community Development Block Grant Program.
No, I understand, Jim, that the 2.93 will not go through the county.
Oh, okay. All right. So that may be something else.
Yeah, it's, this 57 million that the county, 57.3 million, I think it is, or so, that the county will be getting, will be where that funding could be available, not just for the county, but for others. But the 2.93 is earmarked for the town, but we'll still see where that is.
But that's
Yeah, because
that's a direct us at 2.93, and the 57 is for the county to do.
Yeah, I understand the 2.93 is earmarked funds, that go to all sorts of towns, different levels, right? Based on population census, I think, and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, the only there was a question as to how it was to be distributed, because originally, most of in probably the last 10 years, the funds had been distributed through the state, through EFC and some of the state agencies. There was a concern that if it went to the states, it wasn't going to trickle down to the municipalities. So, but my understanding, based on this last thing from NICOM, was saying that it would, for localities that receive community development block grant funding directly, they would get a direct payment. And for smaller municipalities that don't get direct funding, it will be pulled in some way. It's not through the Community Development Block Grant Program, but it would be distributed in a similar manner through pooling, according to what NICOM said. And again, it's subject to, approval by the House, so that may in fact change.
Right.
Just the one thing with respect to, Tim, if you could move the map back up to show Midpoint Park. So Bob Gray had looked at this very early on, when there was some issues, when DEC first raised the issue with Midpoint Park. And rather than going through the other option, rather than going to East Fishkill, would probably go along DeGarmo Hills Road, down DeGarmo Hills Road to Myers Corners, and then over Myers Corners Road to tie into the right where the hand symbol is now. So that was the other option that was looked at as far as tying in. If you were going to go,
I recall that required pump stations, along
yeah,
the way.
yeah, you're right. So,
right. So there was no gravity flow or something in that area. So
yeah, it was a mixture.
We're looking at it all. Yeah,
it was a mixture of the two, and I'm but that was the original. That was right. One of the other options.
Yep. Right.
And that's still like a valid alternative, but
right.
Again, it goes back to all this ends up at Tri-Muni.
Right.
I updated the board about we were looking at roughly say it was a $9 million capital improvement project, which the town bears like 3.3 million. The village put together the grant application to EFC, and it was just reported at the last meeting that the funding points fell below the grant line. So there's basically right now no grant money for those improvements at Tri-Muni.
Yeah.
And that kind of parlays to the discussion Jim was saying, unless some significant order on consent were to spark an issue there, maybe that would improve that across the funding line. So again, everyone needs to be aware that, there's a capital burden still hanging over Tri-Muni for the town.
And, in addition to Midpoint, we're going to have ultimately the same issues with Fleetwood.
Right.
And, the options for Fleetwood are more limited.
Right.
I mean, in Fleetwood, you have the potential of pumping up and then going down to the Fishkill system, Village of Fishkill system, or that was contemplated in the original big pipe district to go to Tri-Muni. So,
let's move on. You know,
Yep.
we can't come to any conclusions tonight. I think, you know, a workshop can get us moving. But there is some positive, you know, I think news, and looking at different options are a lot further along than they were 6 months ago. So we'll be back to the board, and I think, you know, we can double check with each other about a workshop in early April, hopefully.
And to the issue of rates, earlier, Frederick circulated the 2020 and 2021 rates, which we had used for the map planning report for SAS. So we have those numbers, and you know, from 2020 to 2021, we had a base number of back in 2020, a base usage of 2,500 cubic feet, and that was reduced to 1,000 cubic feet in 2021, and so that was the big change with respect to the rates. So as we discussed, we would, you know, just for purposes of reaching out to the people in Wildwood, we would anticipate that they would be paying the same rates that the rest of the United Wappinger Water District pays, or Sewer District, I should say, pays.
Okay. Tim, why don't you move on to the Robinson Lane? Just quick update, okay?
So I'll quickly, whoops, now I got too many maps open. Let me just start closing these down. So I can't find it. We had the bid for Robinson Lane. I'm gonna have to stop sharing for a second, sorry. Pull up the bid tab here. Too much stuff open. Bear with me, I know it's time's ticking here. So we had the bid opening, bid prices were higher. Our estimate was at 250,000. The low bidder came in at 338 for the base bid work. We did have a bid alternate, which allowed for a new water service to the proposed ADA bathroom and some an expansion tank with the water system. We bid that piece as an alternate because we figured, you know, let's see what the number comes in at, and possibly town forces or something like KMO could be worked out for that piece. So the bid alternate amount was 28,100. That's in addition to the base bid of 338, 338,000. So you're looking at basically a grand total of 366,100. That's for the base bid and the alternate. There's 90,929 available from the CDBG funding, and that would leave roughly a balance to cover of 275,171. So, you know, I'd asked earlier the same question that came up tonight to Frederick, what the balance line was on Parkland Trust. And as Councilman Casella brought up, there's other obligations already on that 455. So I guess we need to boil that number down to see what the true remaining balance is, and the board to decide if they want to basically cover the remaining costs out of Parkland Trust.
Or if we're going to get some money out of the COVID relief, then we can look at how we, you know, spend that money, you know, on different infrastructure projects.
The bids are generally good, I think, for 45 days. So, you know, we've checked references and everything, and the low bid pans out, but we didn't want to take action until we had more.
So are we applying the best value procurement here? Are we going to be able to use that or no?
No, that's only for purchasing goods and services. Doesn't apply to public works.
Okay.
So this is an entirely new sanitary disposal system that needs to be created at this location?
Yes.
And this is in addition to the new ADA restroom facility?
Correct. That's all together. No, it's all into that number.
The 338 includes the ADA
Right.
restroom facility.
Okay.
Yep.
And refresh my memory. How are we planning on paying for the new ADA restroom? What was that going to be? How was that going to be funded?
We had an original estimate of 250,000, and I think, we had found this building as a state bid co-op prefab building, but that manufacturer dropped off the state bid list. So we weren't able to maintain that budget number in our original estimate. But at the end of the day, from our original estimate saying 250,000, roughly 100 or this 90,929 was going to be from CDBG. So the balance was going to have to come out of, Parkland Trust.
So how much are we anticipating from community block grant funding?
90,929.
We have to fund about 275,000. We go through the project. That's what we got to figure out how to fund, right?
Right.
So whether it's parkland or bonding or something,
Right.
we've got to come up with about 275. Okay.
What's the life of the asset? In other words, can we bond specifically for this?
Sure. I would
So-
think it probably would be probably a 20 or 15-year life.
Because money right now is very cheap.
Right. And it may get more expensive if inflation does kick in.
Well, it will.
Yeah. No, I know.
Based on the rate that they're printing money, if we have an opportunity to bond capital assets, in my opinion, now is the time.
Yes.
So rather than spending cash, this is my personal opinion, rather than spending cash we have on hand and draining the Parkland Trust Fund, my position would be we should bond this, whatever the appropriate term is.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, we've got a number of things we can go ahead and bond. We've got a bunch of money coming off the balance sheet over the next couple of years. So certainly that would be the proposal at a 2% interest rate right now. So I agree.
And I
Should
think
bond
that
it for this.
look at it, Al, if you look at bonding, then we don't have, the first year, has some leeway with respect to, capital repayment and interest, right? So, the second year, as you said, we start, getting some return, from the other bonds that are paid off. So,
Right.
But mine, CDBG is reimbursable, right? So you
Yeah.
still have to factor that in.
correct. So, okay, I think, Jim, what is the official time period in which we have to respond to a low bidder?
We can stay open for 45 days at a minimum. It could be extended after that. If we think these are good numbers and, you don't want to go out to rebid or change the job, I can ask Doug Goodfriends to prepare a bond resolution for the next meeting.
So I guess the question would be are we able to include some other capital assets? We also have, remember, open the highway,
Well, so each,
How would it work? Each one would be a separate bond? Jim?
each one is a separate bond resolution, and then when you go out to borrowing, you would, in essence, package them together and,
Oh, that's what I meant.
right. So each asset would be bonded separately, and then the question is, whether you do an offering of the lowest, that's a top end. So, if you had a 10-year or 15-year and a 30-year bond resolution separately, you could theoretically do 3 separate bond issues or one bond issue for the shortest amount of time.
Right.
Yeah, because we can save some costs on this would be ideal, if we can, package it together.
Right.
Yeah.
It's expensive to bond. So.
Well, Al, you and I and Frederick and maybe Jim should have a discussion and, based on your schedule in the next couple of weeks with Munistat on the capital planning and particularly in relationship to the bonds are paying down. And then, seeing what we have and what's the best way to go. And then, Jim, you can be alerting Doug Goodfriend that we're likely to be doing something like this. So we can keep it moving. But I think, Al, if you're able to participate in a call, Frederick can probably set that up based on your schedule.
Great, thanks very much. Hey, Tim, I have one other thing as long as we're talking about the Robinson Lane ADA improvements there. If we take a look at and again, I know we're not going to talk about this tonight, but I just want to bring it to your attention again, is, we've got some cracks on the field down there, Challenger Field, and I know we had an estimate of around $9,000 or so to try to get that repaired. If we can see something in the next, couple of weeks, because their season will probably be opening up, fairly soon in the next, month or so. But nice to be able to get that put together and see if we can't do the repairs on that field, because again, $9,000 we can probably pull it out of Parkland Trust, but want to try to get that thing moving forward if we can. Again, bring it forward to the board, make sure the board's okay with it. But I did see the estimate for me to repair the cracks, and it is a problem. So thank you.
Right. We're just waiting for the weather to break, so I'll dust it off. And
thank you, Tim.
It's going to break tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's going to be 60s tomorrow.
Do we, have we had any contact with Little League regarding what their timeline is going to be? Do we know?
Jessica, do you know when they plan to open?
I don't have it right in front of me, but yes, and it's actually on their website as well.
Yeah.
Is it on schedule, or are they pushing it back? Do you know?
On schedule, as far as I can say.
Okay. Thank you.
And we're going to discuss maybe a little bit in an executive session with respect to the contract if we have time. Jim's looked at it. Jessica had looked at it too. But there's one issue there that particularly I think in executive session we needed to discuss. Right, Jess?
Very important.
Yeah. So, but we can talk about that later. Okay. Tim, anything more?
That's it for now.
Okay, Jessica, just the high level, I had asked Jessica to try to simplify, although my eyes are going blind reading her latest chart, but I do appreciate it from a calendar point of view. And she did do a job taking that, the 20 dead trees that she killed for her packet. But anyway, Jessica, why don't you quickly, just explain it. And then, I think certainly board members can have more questions with respect to what it means, but right now just summarize it.
Exactly. This is going to be a little bit more of a question and answer tonight if you guys have any questions. The first thing I just wanted to bring to your attention so that I don't need to go through 3 years worth of things is what's happening right now and within the next kind of month and a half. In terms of our activities. So we've already started rolling out some of our online senior activities this week, and it's going to be continuing through the summer, and it's also going to be supplemented by outdoor senior activities. That'll be starting more when spring hits. We know we have a lot of people who really want to get out there on our bocce and shuffleboard courts right now. They are not playable right now, so we just want to make sure everybody knows that. Even though the weather's going to be warm, the courts are not in a playable condition until things dry out. Outside of that, we have a spring full of activities. We have a Easter Bunny drive-through that we're going to be doing at Town Hall on March 27th. There'll be more info available on that soon. As kind of I did something similar with Christmas into keeping it a little more local and also keeping it manageable with COVID. You'll start seeing the information go public on that this week. Then we have our 5K, which you already know about. There's additional events that would be taking place that weekend. In terms of the sign reveal that's on the table. Earth Day, which we don't really have much to do with, that's usually the supervisor and Joey. But then we, in May, have our Pet Palooza that we're trying to get together. It's something we were going to be doing last year, but COVID, of course, derailed us. And we're hoping to get it going for this year. We're having our very first ever spring version of our craft fair on May 22nd, right here at Town Hall. Memorial Day is
let me just stop briefly. On Pet Palooza, Donna's, that's one of her
Oh, her baby.
projects. It's her baby, but also I had the kind of the general agreement by Tractor Supply to help us with that in some way or the other.
Very good to know.
So I'll talk with Donna some more, but
Mhm.
as I think a number of you know, they have Tractor Supply has 4 key community areas they focus on, and one is on animal husbandry and so forth, and they get involved with a lot of those things. So that was positive. I had that discussion with Mike Jensen when we had the opening, the other day. So I'll talk with you some more, Jessica and Donna, I think, about that.
Very good.
Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I didn't want to lose my thought on that.
No, that's perfectly fine. The last one on the near future calendar is Memorial Day. We are going to be making every attempt to do Memorial Day in person this year. We did, pretty well with Veterans Day here at Town Hall, but we're going to try to get back to our standard format for Memorial Day. At Schlott House, socially distanced. We're going to have special seating for people who cannot stand outdoors. We're going to be splitting up some of the tents and things like that. So we have every intention of moving forward with Memorial Day in person, which is really great news. Virtual last year was nice, but it's important to do it in person. Outside of that, that's our quick overview of what's so close on the horizon. All of the papers that I had given you all, the massive stack, as well as the 2 overviews. Any questions, anything you'd like to discuss? This is really kind of the follow-up now that you all have had that for a little while. So it's question time.
Anything at this time? Of course, you can please reach out to Jessica, review it a little bit more. There's a lot of information and a lot of projects that she has there that they're starting to roll out. But I think we need to look at it and probably even in part of a workshop or so forth to address it a little bit more. Okay.
I'm glad.
Angela, I think specifically, I know you had a lot of ideas and also some concerns. So please, take some time, and you and I can chat.
The workshop would be a good thing.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jessica,
Yeah,
honestly, for the information. But
No
I think it's
problem.
an important thing. The seniors are an important part of our community, and this is the right way to go.
Is
So
there
we need to focus a little bit more on some things, and I'll discuss them with you.
Yeah.
wonderful? Is there anything in particular you want me to get ahead of?
Right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay.
All right. And actually, the one other thing that I did forget to mention, we also have every intention of running summer camp in person this year. State guidance is actually coming out a little earlier than last year when it was a frequently changing situation. So that's good news. It's going to help us better prepare. And again, every intention of moving forward with having an in-person summer camp with modifications. They need it. The kids need it. They
I
need
think
it.
everybody does.
Yeah.
I was just going to say you should have an adult camp.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant, Angela. We could do something as well. Okay. Well, thanks, Jess.
Hey,
We'll
good.
talk
I mean,
more.
let me know if anybody has any questions at any point. You know where to find me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Joey, are you back from the legislature?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
So I think what Joey wants to review, I reviewed it a little bit. I think some others, maybe Al and so forth, a little bit. But this is like phase 3 for our what we call Hamlet neighborhood, signs. And so we've continued to get inquiries by residents from these, or at least most of these areas that Joey's going to show you. This is kind of a preliminary, but looking at what the communities may be. Signs, I don't think Joey yet has gotten actual, costing information, but at least as of earlier today. So Joey, I'll turn it over to you.
I'm just pulling up the shared screen. There's actually a fire truck coming by right now. So if you just give me a second, I had to step outside.
Wait, there goes Bill. Wait, no, I'm kidding.
Yes, Bill.
I think he's in.
Yeah. We had our legislature meeting tonight, and so I had to make sure I had a chance to step out. Hold on.
I see Blue getting kind of antsy there, man. He's getting ready to get out of the chair and go. Siren in the back.
The siren set him off.
I'm beyond.
Yeah. Hold on. It's being annoying right now. I apologize.
Oh, no worries.
Well, Joey, while you're doing that, let me just cover the next one briefly.
Okay, yes.
With respect to Chief Daniel Ninham, I think I've talked with many of the board members and others. You know, we have nothing in our town that recognizes the heritage of our Native Americans. And we, I guess, had an opportunity a few years ago before I came in to get a large statue, like a 7-foot statue of Chief Ninham in Fishkill. The town of Fishkill took away that from us, and they are now going to be installing, this, statute. But the good news is that the artist has what is going to be a 4-foot statute, the same statute that is going to be available, for us if we want to purchase it and then, install it dedicated. And also I've talked with some other of our community fathers, such as Alex Reese, and they're all very much interested in seeing us recognize at some location, maybe it's Carnwath or elsewhere. But I think we need to, I'm not asking for a vote tonight, but pretty soon decide, do we want to do this? The statute itself, when it's made in bronze, will cost $60,000 as far as the bronze statute is concerned. And then we're going to have a base and all that proper installation. I'm thinking, I talked with Mike Jensen a little bit. It's possible to get a Tractor Supply to donate materials that would go into, the proper base. We may be able to get some, donations, for it. But I wanted to see if the consensus of the board is such that, we should at least look at going forward and try to, maybe even reserve the statute, the 4-foot version of this, because we may lose opportunity, and the artist is the best one out there for this sort of thing. So I had a call. We had a call with him last week, and I had written to him, and he got too busy then with COVID, never got back to us, but is interested, particularly in the home of the Wappinger tribe, to do something here. So I'd like to know what is, it's not identical to the statute that you're seeing here, but a similar sort of version. And
Supervisor, this would be the statute. This is actually from the artist.
Is this the one that you got from him? Okay.
Yeah, from Mike Bropian, the artist.
Okay, so he sent you this one. Yeah.
This is it.
Okay, good. So anyway, does anybody have any thoughts on that? Bill, Al, Angela, Chris?
I would just say I wasn't aware of any opportunity previously in the town. I know maybe some people had conversations, but it didn't reach the town board. I know that. It never was formally presented to the town board, or at least the last 5 town boards that I've been here. But again, I will say that we, as the town of Wappinger, should have a recognition, symbol or something that recognizes Daniel Ninham. The town of East Fishkill has a street. The town of Fishkill is going to have a statue. Yet we are the town of Wappinger, right. And I don't see any notable recognition. I know that Joey has received something to hang in town hall, which I think is a good start, right? But I think we need to explore this. Now, the real question is how to fund it. I'm not so sure it should be funded primarily with tax dollars. I think we should explore other avenues of funding. There are organizations out there, there are funding opportunities out there, but I think we should start the process at least, and we certainly should have some level of recognition for this patriot.
Right. And like I said, I talked with Alex Reese, and he agrees, and I suspect that maybe we can get some friends of or do something with respect to the statute and the site and how we're going to handle that. We decide. But I suggest that we move quickly, maybe have a small ad hoc committee of the board and whoever else we think would be good. Certainly the historian should be involved in it. I'm happy to, of course, be part of that, but I would like to at least see some other board involvement on it, and we figure out where to proceed. But I agree with you, Bill. We need to do something, and I think.
Has there any been to where to put this?
Well, that's what we would need to explore and decide. There are several options. Go ahead, Joey.
Oh, yeah, no, there are several options. We've discussed Carnwath, Reese Park, Town Hall. Also, one thing that has been discussed by residents as well as potentially even creating a history park, maybe Indigenous Peoples Park, and the center island out in front of Adams. That could be similarly set up as Sergeant Palmentier 9/11 Memorial Park out on Route 9. That would be seen by everyone. So there are a couple different ideas, but I think the supervisor's idea tonight was get the board's consensus, get the feelings of the board to see if you wanted to move forward or not. Because we have an opportunity right now to tell the artist as he's finishing up the Fishkill statue that we would like to pursue the statue in the town of Wappinger.
So,
I'd like to be a part of that committee. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. I mean, whoever would like to be on it,
Yeah, I'd like to be a part of that committee.
Yeah. Alex Reese, once the dredging and the remedial work for the hazardous site and the lower creek and that section of the village is done, he also wants to, he's going to create a Friends of Reese Park, and he also wants to consider donating land or working with us with respect to that whole section of land from really the boathouse down to the bridge, New Hamburg Bridge. So that could be a possibility, Reese Park, so we do have some options, and I think this is a good time to create a committee that would look at that, and, I think other elements of it with recreation in mind. So, okay.
I'll be happy to serve on that committee too, if that's possible. My position is that not enough people know about Daniel Niven. So with all due respect to everyone that's involved, I happen to be a proponent of trying to put these things out in front. That's why Sergeant Palmentier Memorial is sitting on Route 9.
Right.
Some people don't like that, but I like that because every time I drive by a piece of steel from the World Trade Center, we're reminded by what happened just about 20 years ago. So my position would be to get the public aware of the town of Wappinger, why we are the town of Wappinger, and who the leader, the last sachem of that group was. Put that thing someplace where people are going to see it and wonder and stop and look at it. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm interested. I think the town should be interested, and I think we need to have some conversations about the 4-foot high commissioning versus what other options exist.
Sure.
I understand the town of Fishkill is going for the full 7-foot one or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But there are ways for us to highlight ours as well. So I'll be happy to discuss further.
Okay. Well, let's move ahead. Then we'll discuss it, and I think we can figure out how to get actually probably everybody in the board involved, without having a public meeting, and work it that way. So, so that's good. Okay, thank you. I think Joey, go ahead with your signs, but we'll get something going and get back to you, everybody. Thanks, Bill.
All right.
They returned. We had to turn today.
All right. So here I'm gonna go one by one, sharing the screen. I'm doing this from my phone, so I apologize for the informality of the presentation tonight. But the supervisor and Councilman Beal had actually asked me to investigate doing another phase of our greenway signs to mark the hamlet centers, hamlet entrances, as well as neighborhood entrances throughout the town. We have done a substantial amount under this administration. Actually, we have completely replaced all of the old ones, actually, under this administration, and done a more sturdier PVC style with high quality metal poles, highway quality. So tonight, this is just for discussion. The sign vendor did not get back to me in time with updated quotes, but just so you know, lead off with a single-sided sign in the past has been $1,100. A double-sided sign has been $2,200. And that has been standard practice for the past several phases of signs that we've done. We've done several hamlet centers. We've done several neighborhoods all throughout the town. So tonight, I'm going to be proposing a few for a discussion. We'll take input and then go to the sign vendor from there. So the first set that you see here is marking the hamlet of Didell as well as the hamlet of Fowler House. This sign for Didell would stand at the corner of Didell Road and Route 376, basically marking the entrance to the rail trail area as people were to pull in off of 376, a very highly trafficked area, and we felt that that would be a good location. A little history lesson for the hamlet of Fowler House. Actually, the town of Wappinger changed the name of the hamlet of Middlebush around 1880. And all of the documents that the town has on the hamlet of Middlebush changes over to Fowler House. The schoolhouse was named Fowler House, so on and so forth. So what we were looking to do was place a sign at the corner of Old Post Road and Route 9, right in that center island next to Adams there, where actually the former Fowler House schoolhouse once stood. Now, both of these signs would be double-sided. I'm going to stop my screen share. I'm going to go on to the next set of signs.
So let me just say one thing while you're saying that.
Yes, sir.
So some of these hamlets are no longer hamlets, though. They were hamlets back in the day, but they're no longer hamlets now. So I think we have to be careful identifying certain areas as hamlets when they're not hamlets anymore.
I guess, yeah, we could get into a debate and a discussion about what a hamlet is today and so on and so forth. I mean, hamlets really don't have any sort of definition by state protocol. I mean, it's just they're mostly communities today. But again, this is up for discussion. So if the board would like to name it as a community or
neighborhood, I mean, that's why I put it on here like hamlet/neighborhood. I agree with you, Bill. Yeah, we do need to be careful and figure it out.
The only concern would be like on a highly traveled road, if somebody crashes into a tree and says, "I'm in Fowler House," and the 911 center says, "We don't have any idea what that is."
Well, to be completely honest, most people would never know that in Swartattville either. But no, I agree. I agree with
saying though.
Would it make a difference if you said the historic hamlet of?
Yes,
Yeah.
we could.
Could be, sure.
Agreed.
Yeah. Good
So,
idea, Chris.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. So we can amend that. So these signs here that you see, for the hamlet of Middlebush, I haven't come up with a actual location yet. At actually our last legislature committee meeting last Thursday, we pushed for, and actually I advocated for the funding for a study to potentially put a roundabout at Middlebush Road and Sergeant Palmetier Way. So we have an opportunity that if the county determines, yes, a roundabout is needed at that intersection, to potentially put that sign for Middlebush right in that traffic circle. In the meantime, we were talking about potentially the corner of Sergeant Palmetier and Old State Road East, closer to the cemetery, and doing a double-sided sign there as people would enter into what was then the Middlebush hamlet. But again, hopefully soon the county will find out the results from our study and whether or not that traffic circle will be put in. Going over to the fourth ward, Sherwood Heights, the residents of Sherwood Heights actually requested a sign for their neighborhood as you would go up Sherwood Heights Road. The town actually maintains, just before you start to get up the hill, a sewage pump station, I believe.
Right.
And it would go right near there. It'd be a single-sided sign that would go there. I'm going to screen share and go to the next slide.
And Joey, while you're doing that, you ran some numbers on the number of signs within each ward, right? Or you're looking at that to make sure that our wards, had a good distribution of the communities, right?
Yes, that's correct. For the most part, all of the wards are getting 3 signs each on average. But again, one or two wards will get more. That could be sent to you specifically in an email later once I prepare that. But yes, for the most part, all the wards are equally taken care of. Now, in past phases, some wards were more so represented than other wards. So this will be equaling that out in this phase.
So are you using the same vendors you've been using?
Yes, we have used sign language in the past. They've been the most durable, not necessarily the most cheap sign quality, but they have been the most sustainable and durable signs in comparison to the past. And we have basically a 10-year guarantee on these signs moving forward as well.
Yeah, we used to have the wooden posts, but they didn't last very long. So the posts you're using now are certainly much more durable.
Yes, definitely. These are metal highway quality signs that we've put up. Thank you. All throughout the town, and they have been very durable, especially with plows. And where we've had issues in the past with the plows coming by and snapping some signs and this and that, we've done additional welding on it. They've held up, especially this very strong winter that we've had. So looking here at tall trees, this sign here would be placed at the corner of Amherst and Wheeler Hill. It would be a single-sided sign right in front of the water pump station that the town just erected when we hooked everything up to the United Wappinger Water District. So that would be a single-sided sign as you entered Amherst on town.
The in-ground pump station.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, we got rid of the old above ground. We have it below ground. And then Oakwood Knolls would be the corner of Robert Lane and Myers Corners. It would be set in. It would be a single-sided sign, also in front of a sewage pump station there. So the idea that we're kind of going behind is trying to shade or cover up some of the utility sites that we have at the entrances to these neighborhoods, where some residents can come out and maybe put some mulch down and beautify their entrance, so they would have a nice sign rather than a sewage pump station. So Oakwood Knolls would be at the cover of Robert Lane and Myers Corners Road, also single side. So then we would, all right, let me just go back over to here. All right, Wyndham Crossing, that is the neighborhood Lane Gate area. And so this would be a double-sided sign on the corner of All Angels Hill Road and Lane Gate, basically on John Lawrence's property near that corner there. So it'd be a double-sided sign. Watch Hill would be a single-sided sign at the corner of Park Hill Drive and All Angels Hill Road.
Are there any signs that we currently have that need to be repaired right now?
No, all of the signs as of the last snowstorm are in good shape. Actually, the Houstonville sign 2 snowstorms ago was damaged, but has since been repaired. All the other signs are still in good shape and were updated. Here we have Hamlet Court. We have 2 different options here. One would be a single-sided option at Hamlet Court in the center island there. So it'd be kind of at the end of the street, but the town owns and maintains property at the end of that street there. It's a nice center island with some municipal parking there. We could put it there, or at the corner of Hamlet Court and Spook Hill. The neighborhood of Panorama Acres, there are 2 options there. One at the corner of High View and Myers Corners, and then the other one at the center island at the corner of Valley and High View. So there are 2 different options there, both single-sided signs.
I'm not sure how much we have budgeted for these at this point this year, but we're going to have to really look at where the priority locations are.
Right, great.
Absolutely. This is just presenting to you tonight the remaining neighborhoods in a sense, and the town board will get this presentation emailed to you guys following this meeting, and then you can email the supervisor and I which neighborhood you like best if we don't come to a decision tonight.
Or we can rank them by priority, what is first.
Rank them and come back at the next meeting for financial approval. But then we have here Fleetwood Manor. So this would go at the entrance of Fleetwood Drive, also blocking a pump station that's there. And then the other one would be at Lookout Point, which is at the corner of Eck Road and Old Hopewell. This would be a single-sided sign, also blocking an existing pump station. That is basically the conclusion of tonight's presentation. If you have any suggestions, comments, anything like that, I'm all ears right now, and we can move
So I
forward.
think what I'd like to see, Joey, is get us an estimate. Let's find out what we have in the budget for it, as Bill said before, and let's see how many we can fit into the budget. I know we need to do all these different communities, but let's just see what it is.
Yeah.
If we have 6,000 or 8,000 in the budget for it, and these are 1,100 a piece, and you do 7 of them, you can probably fit it in the budget. But some of them are double-sided, so a little more money. So let's just take a look at the cost.
Yep.
And see, where we go from there. But
and our vendor has been very good in keeping the price the same over the past 3 years of this administration. Now we've done a couple different phases, and he's kept the price the same. He just did not get back to us in time, and I apologize for not having.
And, we create, I think, Al, back to your point, with which I'm in agreement, and those of Bill and so forth, is that then maybe we create a roadmap, and as we look at, our budget and capital plan and building out into the next couple years as well, then we have this all covered. So I think it's a good approach, to take. It's and we'll bring more, I hope, community identity, to folks, because we've gotten a lot of questions. I'm sure each of you have as well. Like to see us continue down that path. So,
yeah, very good.
Was that other sword out sign fixed?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, was fixed last year, as well as the Tanawappinger sign that was damaged at Route 9 northbound.
So the biggest challenge we found with these signs is we previously had the lower ones that were a little more low profile, but we quickly learned after, I think it was 2 years it took for us to get a major snowstorm when they started getting slammed with the plow, especially the ones on Route 9. So after replacing and repairing those signs multiple times, the vendor suggested we increase the height on them, and that has made a tremendous difference. The only existing old sign is the one at 9D near Ernie Martin's house, which, thank you to Steve I think Steve fixed that one last time.
Yeah.
We're just hanging on to that one as long as we can.
And that's not old either. That was part of a replacement project too. That's not part of the original ones.
But for the residents that ask, why are you spending money on these signs? I mean, research has shown that when you identify and provide identity to neighborhoods, hamlets, and communities, people take greater pride and interest in those areas. And we have seen a direct result from that. And that's why we do this. It's important, and that's basically been our mission as a town, to make sure that we build pride in each one of these communities. And that's why we do it.
Yep.
And to your point, Councilman, the town of Wappinger is very unique in this regard. We are one of the few towns in this county that have actually taken the extra mile and the extra step to do nice decorative signs like this to recognize just our.
As we've gotten Wappinger greater identity through a variety of initiatives. This is just one, but our town guide and all sorts of stuff. That's making our community even more popular as a living destination, right? So, I think the board's support and each of the councilmen and women, for the particular wards, doing an outstanding job of, helping to bring that identity. I'd like to make one, maybe it's correction. Snow plows are not directly ramming these signs in most cases. It's the snow that is blown off the plow, right?
Right. It's not the truck, it's the snow load. The snow load hitting the sign. So when you have a light snow like we had recently, it's not a big deal. But when you have that heavy, wet snow, it takes the signs down. So that has been corrected. The only thing in conclusion, I will just say that I think we should try to do more of, Joey, and we've talked about this, is identify 3 locations in the town that deserve an historical metal marker sign. Okay, we have the first POW MIA park in the United States, in the town of Wappinger, village of Wappingers Falls. We've communicated about that. It's been a little more difficult getting those signs because they become more expensive and the grant funding is not really there. But if we can identify 2 or 3 locations in the town or in the village in the town that deserve those historical markers, I think that's the only thing that we're lacking.
Yeah.
That point, I looked into it actually last year, but under COVID, we did not pursue, understandably. But those signs, those nice bronze, the casted plaques there, are running around $2,000 each. Just to put that in perspective. And I identified at your request last year different locations. I still have them in my office. So if the town board wishes to move forward, I can get some updated quotes on that and present those, because I think that's a fantastic idea.
Well, that's where we're going to have to find, in my opinion, alternative funding right now. So I can get away with $1,000 on these community signs, but the historical markers, I think we can find interest having to do with the location, raising money. So we'll talk more outside the meeting, but thank you.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Thanks. Okay.
Just one point on the historical markers. There's probably about a year lead time on those.
Well, some of the locations are 200 years old, so I'm sure a year or two.
Yeah. No, just, just saying from a point of view, as far as, because they cast them and then, there's a backlog. The place who does it is Catskill Castings.
Trust me, we know who it is.
Yep, you got it.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joey. Go back in.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Next item, since Christian is here for also the tax cert, resolutions to get to shortly, he had mentioned to me, that we have an opening in the Board of Assessment Review this year. He had gotten one interested party, but I thought, he could present and then get the guidance on the board of how we want to handle the opening like we do in others. Do we also, want to get other applicants, do interviews? So I'll turn it over to Christian so he can explain what is going on. Christian?
Right, okay. Well, actually, there's 5 members of the Board of Assessment Review. I think we actually have 2 openings because Bruce Flowers, his appointment is up and it's over. He already serves on the planning board. I don't think he's going to be serving on the grievance board any longer. And then Lisa Molatoris, who served on the board for, about 15 years or so, I think. She's said that she doesn't want to be on the board anymore. So now we have two openings. So Eric Axelson, who used to be the director of the Dutchess County Real Property Tax, has retired. And he lives in Wappinger. And he came to me and said that he'd be interested in serving on the board.
That's good.
So he would be an excellent candidate because he's the person who, when we send our board members up for training, he's the one who actually trains them for their 3-hour course. So he knows what he's doing. It would be an excellent fit for us, and we'd be lucky to have him.
Yeah, I would say Eric. I know he recently retired from Dutchess County Real Property. Had a very successful career in that division. If he's interested, has he submitted a letter and a resume for us to review?
He just submitted a letter. I have to get his resume from him.
Okay.
If that can be circulated to the board, that would be helpful.
Sure.
Okay, and he'd be willing to interview too if you wanted to get him in for an interview or do it on Zoom. I'm not sure how you'd want to do it, but I couldn't give him a better recommendation. I mean, he is.
And I concur with Chris.
So.
I concur as well.
Yeah, I don't know him, but that's great. So, but I think it would be good still to interview him. And since we have another one, then we should put out an ad for opening, that we can see if we get any other interest and just compare them. But
what's the deadline on the timeline for them to get their training prior to grievance day?
Training, I think, is going to happen around March 7th. May 7th or 8th this year. So we still have a little bit of time.
So is it possible for us to put something in the paper and have people respond by an appropriate meeting date? Dick?
Yeah, I would. Sure. I think we should. And then whether or not it's maybe too soon the next meeting in March, but certainly the first meeting in April.
Yeah.
Right? And then that would still give us some time.
I agree. This needs to be opened up to the community and let other people have the opportunity to apply for these positions.
Now, the one thing is, as far as criteria, the person needs to have some relative background in real estate and knowing valuations. This is not really a position for somebody. It's not generally designed for people with no experience.
Right, I understand that, Jim, but we also have people that are new to this and have learned a lot.
No,
being
I know,
that
it's just,
position.
there's a statutory requirement, so I think whatever advertisement goes out, you know, it needs to say, you know, what the criteria needs.
Well, then maybe Jim, you
apply.
can give us a
Yep.
little, if there's a legal requirement, work with Christian to give us kind of the definition, then we can get the advertisement.
It's in the statute,
Okay, well.
and
I
it's
don't
in
know
every
the statute.
resolution we've ever done when we've appointed somebody to the board.
Okay.
Well, why don't we have them send them to the board and Christian, let Christian get our preview because he'll know the criteria he needs, you know, especially, you know, who help him out. And then certainly it sounds like the one gentleman is more than qualified, but I agree, you know, we should, you know, advertise it, give people an opportunity, but certainly Christian should probably get one of the first opinions because it's his area and he's got to work with the Board of Assessment. And then he can bring forward kind of, you know, here's 10 people and you guys go ahead and pick, here's kind of my recommendations, but you know, he's going to know it better than any of us, right?
Right.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay, so then, you know, Christian, you and Jim, you know, can get something and we can work up a final ad and then get it out to papers and maybe social media. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, don't go to bed yet. You know,
No,
okay?
I'm going to stay
We
around.
still have you for some important items. So
Yes, I'll be here.
okay, but thanks. The next item just will be real brief. I've, you know, prepared and not for discussion tonight, but I just wanted to say I have a proposed community affairs committee. You know, as you know, we have basically a defunct, a community recreation committee that became defunct after Community Day of 2 years ago, when several of the members resigned, and also we've had some other intervening unfortunate events that's lost members that were on there. So what I've prepared is something that was more official, that would be an advisory committee to the board and certain key recreation activities such as Community Day. So you can read that, and hopefully we can discuss it next time. And similarly because of the importance and the growing importance of seniors, and at the request of a number of seniors, I have also the Senior Affairs Advisory Committee as well. So take a look at that, and let me know, your thoughts, and then we can have some discussion at the next meeting. But I think both are important, committees to help advise the board and look at which directions we may want to go at the higher level. So, look at it, and I've tried to keep them simple enough, but also I have proposed for each that there would be there would be representation from each ward. There would be certain people, on it based on their current, positions. So take a look at that, and then let me know the thoughts, and we'll have discussion on it in the next meeting. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so let's move on to the resolutions and some more discussion. Certainly the first one, we've had a lot of discussion, but I think Steve wanted to update us concerning Resolution 2021-46. This is a resolution authorizing the purchase of a lift for buildings and grounds. It was tabled last meeting for further discussion, and we'll see where it goes from there. Is Steve there? Steve's not here.
Yep, there he is.
Yeah, you're muted, Steve.
Okay, Steve, you're muted.
Well, it doesn't say you're muted, but your phone, for whatever reason, there's no audio. Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Maybe you need to just dial back in.
Yeah, we can move on, or wait a second. Dials back in.
Should move on?
Yeah, we'll move on if you just log out and log back in.
And let us know when you're back in. Well, we can see, somebody can watch the screen as far as that's concerned. Okay, and the next item will be Resolution 2021-49. This is a resolution adopting local law number 1 of the year 2021, creating Chapter 47 of the Town Code of the Town of Wappinger This is what we know as the best value, procurement. We had the public meeting earlier hearing, and so I think we've been well briefed on what it's all about. So do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you. Jim, what do we need to do now? With respect to this?
It gets filed with the Secretary of State in Albany.
Okay.
The town clerk sends it up to Albany.
Okay.
And it gets put in the local law book.
Okay. I had seen a reference, and maybe you can, help us understand that a local law last year was not properly done. Is that?
No, there was a local law for regarding the Downey LP facility.
Okay.
It was introduced as a rezone, but for some reason it got sent up to Albany.
Oh, I see.
The town board never adopted it.
Yeah, no, we never did that. Yes.
It was referred to the planning board to do seeker analysis.
Okay.
Which I believe is probably on at the next meeting.
So there's nothing we need to do from a town board point of view?
No, not right now.
At this time. Okay. So we'll have a full discussion later based on whatever the planning board decides, right? Okay. Is Steve back yet?
I am. Can you all hear me?
Yeah. Okay. We hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I guess you just passed the resolution number 2 there for tonight?
Yes.
Yes. So that plays into the purchase of the lift. At the last meeting, it was brought to my attention that we had to go to public bid. Used equipment is kind of difficult to consider underneath the procurement law as it was written. This best value amendment will allow now that used equipment can be considered because there's so many variables. I have been touching base with some other the manufacturer to find out whether they're participating in any government purchase co-ops like we have arrangements with for trucks and other equipment, and have yet to hear back on that. And I'm still watching the used equipment ads. At some point, I'd like to get together with Councilman Phillips and share his expertise in looking at this stuff.
Sure. Okay. Anything else, Steve, on this?
No, we're kind of in a holding pattern at the moment, and I will come back. I did send out that list of work that we could accomplish with it that had been requested.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. So I guess a motion to table?
I'll make a motion to table it.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you. Thanks, Steve. And thanks, for your other work. As you heard, the M-Star, Rob was very appreciative of your ongoing help over there. So thank you.
Very good. Thanks.
Okay, we're going to move on to what are really, I guess we have 3 tax cert, items. The first one is Resolution 2021-50. This is a resolution authorizing the settlement of tax certiorari proceedings regarding JP Morgan Chase Bank, number 150111. Christian, you and then Jim, can summarize what's here.
Right. So this is obviously the bank on the corner of Route 9 and Myers Corners Road. There's 2 properties there. We got to have the agreement to reduce the assessment about 10%. It was $2,080,000. It's going to go to about $1,810,000. And we also negotiated no refunds for the town. So they're going to waive any town or any special district refunds associated with it. So that's pretty much standard what we're trying to get people to agree to these days. So it costs us really nothing to settle these cases. So, although of course we pay all the costs in these cases, so that's kind of fair.
All right. Okay, Jim, any legal comments on this?
No, the only comment that I have is for some strange reason, the stormwater retention pond for this is a separate tax lot, and for whatever reason, the planning board never combined the 2 lots. So the smaller $40,000 parcel here is the stormwater basin, which is on a separate tax parcel from the bank building itself. And for some strange reason, they were actually in different ownership. I don't know if that's been since changed, but they actually had different owners. So the original tax cert just came in for the stormwater retention bond and for the first year and didn't include the bank building itself. I don't think they knew they had two different lots.
Oh. So nothing that we need to do with respect to that?
But, I don't know at this point in time what we can do.
Okay.
So, all right. Maybe it's at some point in the future.
So
I'll move this.
okay, there's a motion second.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2021-51, resolution authorizing the settlement of tax certiorari proceedings regarding United Rentals number 6002. I have a motion. Well, Christian, I'm sorry. Go ahead and summarize.
Oh. Okay, well, this is a property at 20 All Angels Hill Road. It's, if you're going up north on All Angels, it's one of the last properties on the left. It's a complex with two big warehouses on it. United Rentals runs their rental business out of there. They filed on the case. It was $2.2 million, and we agreed to a reduction to $2,050,000. That's a good settlement as far as we're concerned. And again, we had them agreed to no refunds on the town or any special districts.
Does it also apply to 2021 as well? Because I noticed that's in there under the resolve piece. So it's the same for 2021 as 2050, Christian?
I didn't see that. I can double check the work. Jim might be able to answer that too.
The assessment roll for your 2021 should listed and finally assessed at $2,050,000.
Right. Isn't that the number for all the years or no?
It is for 2020. It's got its own on the assessment roll says 2019 and 2020, but then it says be resolved for 2021. So it's not actually in the box itself. That's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, I don't. I think it probably. I don't know if we. Christian, if there was an agreement with respect to the upcoming roll. I mean, typically, that agreement would, for a number of reasons, it would carry over anyway. So yes, that would be the number for the 2021 roll.
Right. So I guess sometimes we put it in, but a lot of times we get them to agree to the provisions of 727, which says that after a certiorari settlement, there'll be a 3-year freeze on the assessment, meaning they can't challenge the 3 years. But since for an annual revac community, we don't get the provisions of 727. But a lot of times we, we'll still say as part of the settlement, we want 727, so you don't come right back at us again, the next year.
Okay.
So it must just got thrown in there because we're so close to the roll at this point in time. They put it in there.
I'll move it then.
So.
Okay, motion second. Angela?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. I'm going to jump over because we have another tax cert so that Christian can address it. This is item number 6 on the agenda. It's resolution 2021-53. This is a resolution authorizing the settlement of tax certiorari proceedings regarding Alpine Improvements LLC and U.S. Bank National Association as trustee et al. Christian?
Okay, well, this is the BJ's property and the former Stop and Shop and Tops supermarket. It was owned by Alpine Improvements, who filed a grievance on 2017 and 2018, and then they were foreclosed on by U.S. Bank, and they filed on 2019. When the property was foreclosed on, they bought it from on the courthouse steps, or for $12 million, and then they subsequently sold it to another owner who's not involved in these proceedings as of yet, and for about $12.5 million. It's assessed for $23.5 million. So there's a big difference there in the numbers. We got them to agree to drop their 2017, and then For 2018, the assessment will be 17 million, and for 2019, the assessment will be $18 million. This is our biggest tax cert that we have on right now. We did go out and get appraisals on it. They went out and got an appraisal, and so did we. But before we ended up in court on it, we were able to come up with these numbers. So this is really a hard-fought case, and this is something that we were really fighting hard on because our exposure was extremely large. Because if they got the $12.5 million number that they wanted, that would have been a huge, huge loss for us.
Right.
So we were able to come up with something that was agreeable.
Do we owe them a refund at all?
I believe that they're, again, walking away from their refunds for the town. I got to double check the paperwork, but I'm almost positive that's what we negotiated. Jim might know better than me. If you remember.
Shit.
I'm looking it up right now. I believe they are. Like I said, this is something that we ask everybody to do now. Just because, when it comes time to do an appraisal, we spent all the money on the appraisal and, no one helps us. So.
Yes. So they've waived the right to any refund due by the town of Wappinger as part of the settlement negotiations.
Right.
And then, basically the reduction, so it would come back from county and school tax. And then with respect to 2017, they withdrew, and then there's 2018 and 2019. So, this one has been out there,
Right.
And the issue, the big challenge here was the foreclosure, and as everybody was aware that shopping center was, vacant for a while. You had Tops go out, or Stop and Shop go out, became Tops, and then that went out, and and then a good chunk of the plaza was vacant. So that was what they were, resting on, and it got to be a challenge. And this was a lot better, I think, because as Christian said, there was a possibility for because there was a sale at $12.5 million,
Right.
Or two sales actually, a foreclosure and a subsequent sale, and that was an auction sale.
No, I think this is a good settlement. Hard, a lot of hard work on it does alleviate some of our concerns, but also perhaps even more important, in addition to preserving our position, is that now allows us to move forward with, I think, even more active discussions that we starting to have with the new owners, to maybe better and more properly build out that property. Which
Yes.
then Christian will come back in a few years and reevaluate it and to look at it at that time. So I believe that it was a hard fought case, but our people maintained the ground. So I thank Christian and also our legal counsel for doing that.
And that's one of the things which is a very, very difficult situation from a valuation point of view, as there is so much vacant retail space.
Right.
And that's what a good chunk of the tax certiorari proceedings are here in Dutchess County, and actually in the Mid-Hudson Valley. We've got a lot of empty large empty shopping centers.
Yeah.
Anchor tenants are gone, and that really, really affects the value of property. And it's something that has to be considered going forward, particularly with the ability to, as the new owners are looking for options in that space to go with non-retail uses to make use of the space that's there. So
let me just say, Christian, this is a great job. This is a good job. Jokingly, I'll say now, I said to you a number of months ago, please, dear Lord, don't let this get below a $12 million assessment, because that would set a bad precedent moving forward in an already uncertain market. Okay. We know the reality right now with large spaces is a real challenge. Just look at the Galleria Mall. Okay. Look at this parcel. We are lucky that a new owner has come in with a grand vision for this property, but by maintaining the assessment at 18 million, okay, well north of 12 million, I understand we have to take a loss here because the property's been devalued, but we've maintained the integrity of this Route 9 parcel that plays a key role not only for this town, but also for the fire district. If this particular parcel was significantly devalued and lowered in assessment, people don't realize what type of shock that sends to these special districts where they have to now try to compensate for that loss. So I thank you for your hard work on this, and I look forward to us having an open mind to future development on this property, which anyone that's followed the latest trends in urban planning, we have to be open to outside the box proposals. And that's what they want to do. They want to look at potential multi-dwelling mixed use and things like that up there. That's what we need to be looking at. So I thank you for your work on this.
Yep.
And I'll move it.
Well, I'll take the credit, but you got to give it a lot to Jim and to Craig.
Yep.
They're the ones really leading the charge on the lawsuit part. So
thank you, Jim. Thank you, Craig. I move the resolution.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item, going back, is also, again, a very important one. And I'm just moving because I have to put my battery charger in. But, is another important part of our development of the town going forward, and a very responsible development. I think we're better positioned than many others, but this is involving, Hudson Valley Lighting. And we've been working, with them. They are an outstanding corporate business presence here. And so now what they're doing is expanding the use of their site, expanding their business there, and basically consolidating a lot of their other business to the town and bringing in much better compensation levels for their people.
Exactly.
Which will be moving into our town, other communities as well. But we are at a very good point, and I think along Route 9 or along Route 376 and other areas. So this one is where, Barbara and I, Bruce, our various, team have been meeting with them, working with them, planning board very much so, making sure that they do it right. But they're very happy with the support that the town's been giving them. And so this is resolution 2021-52, resolution accepting the undertaking secured by cash deposit for restoration in connection with Hudson Valley Lighting. Barbara, if you would just briefly describe what this is involving. It's a relatively simple but extremely important aspect of their moving forward.
The company would like to remove 16 trees, and they need to get them down before March 31st. Due to the moratorium then because of the Indiana bats. This resolution allows them to put $7,200 up until they get the approval on their whole expansion. So this will allow them, if agreed to by the board tonight, to get those trees down in the next 2.5 weeks.
Anybody have any questions? I think planning board's reviewed it. They've gone through it, are in favor, and the company has really been very compliant with our needs and requirements. So I believe it's well positioned, and also for future growth, they'll be back.
I'll move this one.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, Chris,
I'll second it.
Al is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thanks. But again, I think just like to mention that the really well planned and rational development in certain key areas. Thanking the board. Each of the councilmen and women have been very much involved. And so I appreciate, Barbara certainly appreciates planning board as well, the support. So I think we're moving definitely in the right direction. And then as we look more at water and sewer and other elements in the various areas, we're going to be bringing more of the patchwork quilt, together, I think, to ongoing value for the town, for our residents and community. So thanks again, for this. And I think we'll see more consolidation, with respect to what this business wants to do. They're really positive on the town. And I think one thing I'll just mention, they mentioned with us too, that they're very excited that we were able to get the grant monies from the state to do the roundabout at All Angels and Hackensack, that intersection. And because they a lot of their staff goes through that area. And I think Al, in working, on getting that and other things addressed, it's another positive aspect to our whole 376 corridor.
Correct. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. So thanks. Then moving ahead, Resolution 2021-54. This is a resolution awarding a contract for removal of the chimneys or portions of them on Carnwath Farms Park Manor House. We've discussed this before. I had a couple of residents that are very interested in Carnwath, asking if we could, consider, moving ahead. And since we're doing the roof, I think, if they had mentioned that if, in fact, the town couldn't come up with the money, then maybe Friends of Carnwath or some other organization would do it, which I appreciate. I said, well, we'll discuss it with the board and save the money perhaps for another time. But again, we've gotten, I think, the briefing from Tim before. Nothing's changed. And I've gone back. I think a couple of the councilmen had raised questions. We see no other, costs. The concerns that we always have are change orders. So I'm very confident that we're not seeing anything more than this particular one. I open it for any discussion.
So this is the one for $5,872, then?
Correct. That's correct.
Concerning this one, I was worried about a little bit of safety issue, some of the high winds we've been having over the last couple of days, and I don't want anybody to get hurt. So for 5872, I'm going to move this one to approve.
Yeah, I'll second it. And then on the question, I did want a little time to go over there and take a look at the situation. So, the mortar obviously on the, especially the higher part of the chimneys is non-existent. I will tell you there is evidence of bricks on the ground that may have come from the chimney. So my decision now is to support this because once we wrap the roof and wrap the soffits or the gutters, bricks will fall onto the wrap. So
right, exactly.
The right thing to do, especially in light of the 2 wind events we just had where my fence blew apart twice. That was the reminder that I need to support this. I will support this as well.
But I appreciate it, and the town does, and thank you. I think it is the right thing to do, and then we'll see what is up there with the condition of the chimneys. But I think that's what I gotten from some residents, the concern about walking, which Bill's always raised, and it's been legitimate. So
I've heard some of that same sentiment too. So a little bit easier to approve. And again, safety is the key here.
Yeah.
What's the funding stream on this again? Where's this coming from? Parkland Trust or not?
Yeah, I thought we were going to take out our Parkland Trust.
That's what we had discussed, Bill.
All right, so the previous expenses on this for the roof wrap and the gutters, this should be the same funding, in my opinion. So this additional money would essentially be a change order or an addition to that project to get this done as well.
Yeah, this is $5,872. That would
right. And we had what, 31,365 before the one we approved. So
right. Yep.
James, that causes any issues at all? I mean, it's because it's a change order because we're over the.
Well, actually, this isn't really necessarily. This really isn't necessarily a change order. It's really a separate project.
Okay.
So for those purposes, you can consider the 5,000 as a separate. It's just it doesn't. You don't need one to do the other. So for those purposes, I think you could treat this as $5,700 standalone, subject to the town's procurement policy rather than competitive bidding.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Thank you. The next item is Resolution 2021-55. This is a resolution awarding contract for replacement of HVAC condenser coil at Emergency Services Building. So this is part of our ongoing challenges with respect to heating and cooling at both the Emergency Services Building and Town Hall, which I've painfully gone through as well, even today. So Tim, is Tim still here?
I am still here, yep.
Kim, why don't you just, for the board's benefit and also the town, but just describe briefly what you and Bob Travis and so forth have been doing with respect to the overall situation of heating and cooling, especially in town hall, and then you can briefly explain. Steve can jump in too, what this condenser coil is about as well. But overall, just give them a high level, very quick view.
Oh, high level, very quick. As we've all discussed on multiple levels, it's been a troubleshooting adventure on trying to get to the bottom of all the sequencing relative to lack of cooling, and now more recently lack of heating. It's a litany of items identified along the way, but more recently, it sounds as if, and maybe Steve has the right nomenclature, but there was a major pump that blew on the main new system as part of the Mitsubishi system. And this pump, that I understand, is controlled by a variable frequency drive. And why it happened or how it happened, the jury is still out. Parts have been ordered. And there's been several issues with controls with a lot of these circulator pumps and those integrating with each other. So while this main new system is crippled and we're waiting for parts that are covered under warranty, modifications have been put in place to more rely on the existing baseboard heating system. And I think somebody made a comment that the main meeting room was like a sauna, and that's because, I guess, and maybe Steve knows better on the controls, but it's basically on manual mode right now.
Right.
And the baseboard heat is like throttled up to keep the place as warm as possible.
And I had to wear my overcoat into the office, sitting on my desk today because it was cold.
And so today's another example. We had the repair crews there this morning, and I guess they had turned off the thermostat to, not knowing what they were doing, turned off the thermostat to Dick's office. So Dick's like, what, where's the heat? So we sent our guy back there, Bob Travis, and he realized, well, probably in this diagnostic event this morning, someone inadvertently turned off the thermostat. So I believe Dick, after he was there, it came back on.
Yeah, he was able and got up in the ceiling and all sorts of things. But yes, I thank you for sending Bob back out.
So what you're saying is,
Has never been contacted through this whole thing?
What's that?
Has CB Strain been contacted through this whole matter?
Yes. So after our last discussion, I tasked Bob Travis because there were concerns. Was this an installation? Was it a design concern? So I tasked Bob Travis, our design engineer, to roll up his sleeves and dive into it. He's been in touch with CB Strain. They are the ones that ordered these replacement parts, and he's getting a response out of them now. So, but the ESB building, to jump to that, is a separate issue, and I believe that was a condenser that blew, and it went off warranty, so the warranty's expired, and that's what you're looking to replace today. And any technical information, Steve, you want to add to any of this? Or?
Yeah, it is the condenser tube somehow got a hole in it. The thought is it was a manufacturing defect, but unfortunately it's outside the warranty period. I spoke with Bill Chang. He said he's installed hundreds of these units, and this is the first one that he's seen with this issue.
of course, in our town.
Yeah, I know. I'm very frustrated with how this has worked out, because the reason we went and did these repairs or replacements was because of the history we had with the old system, and we don't seem to have made much improvement here in that respect.
What kind of warranty do we have on this one we're going to buy? Is there any kind of warranty at all on it? It's like 3-year parts or something, or?
I don't have the papers in front of me.
Yeah, I don't have it in either myself, but I know.
Do you think we're going to get the heat fixed by the time we need the air conditioning?
Well, you're buying into my sarcasm because I said the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's what I said too.
And what's going to happen when we turn the AC on? I'm nervous to know what's going to happen.
Bill, the heat will come on.
Right.
Well, ideally,
Just like last year.
ideally it's the controls, and this is going to help lead to ironing out the controls, but only time will tell.
But either way, you need the condenser for both purposes. So I don't think.
Yeah, if we're talking about ESB, that system over there, until this point, has worked well. This is the first issue that we've had, and I think we're at 3 years on that one. We're having all the problems we're having at town hall are just, that's very frustrating for both Tim and I.
Where is this paid out of?
It's a fund,
A-fund,
allocated a fund balance.
Yep.
Well, don't we have funding for repairs within those buildings in the budget, though?
That, that was the line that Frederick had initially recommended, but that line now is dedicated to the preventive maintenance program. And that, we're in a 3-year contract with that, and that will be coming due here a little bit later in the year.
So I had a discussion with Frederick about that, and he doesn't. So the 25,000 was allocated for that, and it's anticipated to come in. But right now, Frederick doesn't have the bill in front of him, the final bill in front of him. So at the time that bill comes in, there'll be an adjustment in that line. But right now, there's 25,000 in the line that's been unspent. So that would be for the coil at this time, and then subsequently when the bill comes due on the repair or on the maintenance contract, there'll be a future adjustment.
He has indicated on the resolution as unallocated A fund balance, but what you're saying is it's going to get paid out of the repair line, and then the money will be transferred from fund balance back into the repair line. Frederick, is that accurate?
I think we should just transfer the money from fund balance, Jim, because Steve has said the line is dedicated for the maintenance, and we have a 3-year contract. So even though we have not received the bill will be coming soon.
Okay.
Let's just go ahead and allocate money from fund balance to that
And
line.
the maintenance contract is 25,000.
Correct.
Right.
Yes, that makes sense. They got an A-fund.
The only problem is when you do it that way, we don't have any tracking when we look at the budget in September. In other words, it comes out of A fund balance. We don't see that within the A fund building repairs. We don't see that expense when we're looking at next year's.
Well, no, it's going to get, this line is going to be increased by that amount to pay for that bill.
So that's what Bill said, transfer the money into that line and then.
It is, yes.
Right, but that's not what the resolution says.
Well, it's to.
Correction. Yes, it does. Correction.
Okay.
It does say that. All right. Yeah. Okay. Then you're going to see it. Okay. Thank you.
And this is not going to be, this is once every, hopefully 5-10 years. I'm not going to need a condenser every year, right? So.
No. It's not, I don't see this being a yearly expense, but I want to be able to see it visibly when we start looking at things.
Yep.
I'm good with this. I'll move it.
I'll second.
As to the question as far as the warranty, the paperwork says the warranty is for 1 year on this part.
Okay.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you. And good luck, Steve, with getting the rest of it all resolved. So
We sure are working on it.
yeah, well, and
I know.
I do want to say, just like Rob said, and I mentioned earlier, Steve has been extremely responsive, and even with some other things that when I've called him up or texted him on his personal phone late at night, Steve's been out there. So I really do appreciate it, Steve. The hard work that's going into all that. So
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. The next resolution is Resolution 2021-56, resolution authorizing budget transfer of funds for website hosting and email delivery. And I'll let Frederick can describe this, but apparently we had missed allocating money for the $5,000 that goes into the county for hosting our website and the information. Frederick, do you want to just briefly describe what's involved here?
Yeah, so actually this line, public information and services, A 1480.400, I remember Councilman Bill is the one who had initially introduced this line. And this is the line that we are using to pay for video services. And currently we have 42,000, which is 3,500 a month for the 12 months. So for this website hosting, this is additional, which we never budgeted for. So we just need to transfer money from the fund balance into this line so that we can make the payment to Dutchess County.
All right, I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. So before we go into correspondence, I mentioned earlier that I had a resolution that I wanted to have the board pass, this being International Women's Day proclamation, and then we can certainly add in some more comments if anybody wants to make it. But because of the importance of the day, I wanted to see if we could put something on the record showing what has been the very active considerations of the board over the last few years I've been here. So I'll read it, and Joey, I think, may have sent it out. If not, we can do it. And then if we want to have some comments from board members, I think Angela or any of you, then that can go into the record later. So it says, whereas annually March 8th marks a day to globally celebrate all things women, International Women's Day is meant to celebrate all the achievements of women across the world and the contributions they've made to social, economic, cultural, and political advancements. And whereas this year's theme is hashtag choose to challenge, indicates that a challenged world is an alert world. And from challenge comes change, encouraging all women to challenge everything that holds them back. And whereas the town of Wappinger has been dynamically changed through the efforts of women, either in business or serving in public office, now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Wappinger encourage all residents to stop to recognize the many accomplishments surrounding women, as well as the opposition women face around the world on this International Women's Day. That's the full extent of that.
Well, I'll wait for the councilwoman from the second ward. If she has any comments, we appreciate your service.
Thank you. This goes for all the women, past, present, and future. There is a future for us, and we must all work together and to achieve whatever challenges are in front of us and be successful and help each other. So thank you very much. And wishing all the women out there the best, the mothers, the professionals, all of them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Would you like to move it?
I move it. Sorry. Yes. Long night. Sorry.
I know. Sorry.
Sorry. Yes.
Second and a second,
Please.
and then some other discussion. Bill second. Any other discussion from anybody else?
Good job, Dick. Thank you.
Yeah, good job, Angela.
Thank you.
Angela.
Thank you.
Okay. And so we have motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none. The last resolution is resolution 2021-57, a correspondence log. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to accept the correspondence log.
Okay. Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Long evening. I want us to go into executive session, but I think what we'll do is just have it kind of summary, and then we'll continue with discussion at the next meeting. But I think there are a couple points at least want to raise. So what we'll do is, I guess I need to tell Tom that we're going into a break room if he's not listening, and hopefully then we can, have Sarah present. I have one or two items to present as well. So we'll take a break. Let me see if he's.
Dick, that's fine. I'm going to send you guys in there now.
Okay, good. You got it. Okay, thanks. So we'll go in there and let's take just 5-minute break, and then we'll meet in the executive session room. Okay. Thank you, everyone. And we'll be back. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.